What is up, everybody? Happy Hump Day. Is that politically correct still? Can we still say that? I feel like everything else has been banned. So, happy Hump Day to everyone, to all you humpers out there. Special presentation for you guys today. I'm so excited to share this with you guys. I should probably have a stronger hook for a presentation like this, but I would be remiss to not first start with thank you guys so much for pre-ordering the books. We wouldn't have been able to do so much without you guys, and so think of this entire kind of workshop and day as my way of saying thank you and taking y'all's feedback. And so we have a bunch of stuff. There's a ton of nitty-gritty, very meaty, very girthy topics we're going to get into today, and we're going to break down the $100 million launch. And with this, hopefully you should have a little bit of framework of how you can use these principles to launch whatever it is that you want to launch. Whether that's new products, new services, new anything. Launching is what I have been good at, and so let's rock and roll. Let's dive in. So this is for all of you guys, just as a quick reminder, who clicked and pre-ordered throughout the 6 weeks leading up to the event. So I just want to say thank you. This is for y'all. And so this is me keeping my promise to show you everything I can about the launch as my way of saying thank you. All right. So my legal people would like me to remind you of these things. I guarantee no results, obviously, because you might not do anything. Most people do nothing. So, take all this with grains of salt. You can feel free to pause this and read this at your own leisure. I'll be sharing a ton of data behind the scenes. They are approximations. There are lots of limitations in terms of tracking software. They are not fact of rule of God. These are the things that we have as internal tools. So they are to be taken as such. If they seem contradictory with something else, sometimes time zones, time frames can be different. And so, results will vary, that kind of good stuff. Again, something that happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen in the future. All this stuff worked. Maybe tomorrow the internet breaks. Who knows? Especially with AWS. Jeffy B holding up the internet, which we appreciate. Other things. Yeah, no promises. Again, all of this was based on third-party platforms. This is just for education information. Your situation will vary. You should do your own research. And I think, no, we got another one. Obviously, I'm going to be showing you some good stuff today. I think you can know the dirtiness of the data based on the length of the disclaimer. I don't even know what this one is, but I have to put it in here. Yeah, I'm not a fiduciary, no fiduciary investing advice. You are responsible for your own compliance. We might update this stuff. And so TLDR, by viewing, reading, or using information containing these metrics, you acknowledge that you have read and understood and agree and are bound by this disclaimer. Sweet? Okay, so let's dive in. Quick few words. So main takeaway before we dive into this giant day that I'd like everyone to have is what you will see with all the stuff that I will share with you. What makes you advanced isn't that you are somehow actually advanced. There's no day that you wake up and you're like, I am now advanced. What really makes you advanced is doing all the basics that you already know every time, all the time, at scale. And so if you think about like a perfect business would be like you talking to somebody one-on-one and giving them an amazing customized experience. That at scale is what makes you advanced. So scale brings its own complexity. You don't need to add complexity to your business. You don't need to add complexity to a launch, add complexity to marketing. So much of what I've learned in terms of scaling ads, scaling marketing, in all the things that I do is about how do we just take something that works and do a ton of it. And simple scales, fancy sales has become a moniker of mine that we live by at acquisition.com. So I want to be clear. I don't think we did anything new. We just did all of it. And the team executed everything flawlessly. And so this is the only time in my life, this is real talk, where I had no regrets about what I would have done differently. It just worked exactly the way it was supposed to. And I do have a couple little things that we did I think that were actually new. But they were small things, and I'll show you what we did so that you can use them in your own business for selling or promoting whatever it is that you sell. And I've seen there's a couple things that in the many breakdowns that I saw on the threads and things like that, I didn't see one person mention like almost all of them, which I think is cool because then I can show you. Beyond that, in terms of like how campaigns like this really work, is that they often function, in my opinion, like coats of paint. There's a certain amount of surface area of life experience that you want to live while the work is still open. And so what I mean by that is like, if you're making a script, you're making a campaign, you're making a promotion, you're making a webinar or something like that, I have noticed that the longer I sit with something, the more different experiences I'm having in my life outside of the work. And so then that generates more angles and ideas that I can then bring back to the work that I'm doing. And so this is why I tend to take longer periods of time, even though, you could probably build a webinar in a day if you really had to. This is why taking maybe 6 months or something like that to build something, it's the coats of paint, it's the details that make the difference. With that being said, I don't think this outcome will be soon replicated, partially because the team that we had was exceptional, and there's a lot of other factors that I'll explain really quickly. But we had a culture that could support this. To give you context, 100% of non-essential employees worked and took calls through the entirety of the 60-hour launch, which was nuts. Many people actually slept at our office. We contracted 90 support reps just for chat. That was just chat support reps. We had 750 facilitators. That means we had, I think it was 350 at all times that were available for phone calls. And to just show you the difference, that just like kind of quick lesson number one for me, quality always beats quantity when it comes to talent. And so I'll explain what I mean. We had 35 internal sales reps that we just had, at our hold company, and we basically hired up 750, I'll say, facilitators. I was very clear that I didn't want any hard selling at all, mostly just because of liability, and I don't trust an outside company. But my internal team that was taking calls outperformed by headcount 18x the outsourced team. So basically, with 1/20th of the team, they did the same revenue as 750 people. And so that just goes to show you what training and culture does. Also, something like this, if those of you who do want to launch things or do like larger scale stuff, some of the stuff that makes it complex is actually the technical infrastructure. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail here because I think on that, I don't think it's going to be relevant for almost anyone. But there's a ton of technical portion. So this is my quick shout out to Shopify. So Harley, he reached out, we reached out ahead of time. They were aware of all the stuff that we were doing. We had our 3PL partner, the CRO of that company, reached out to me when they found out we were working with them. They made sure that they had extra hands to make sure. This time, you guys probably all got your books way faster than 2 years ago. That was all because of some of the prep that we learned ahead of time. And I'll tell you what I told our team, and this is something that's been a meta lesson for me about this launch, was that when you're 85 years old and looking back on your life, you won't really remember your life. You'll just remember a few moments. And I think that there are very few times in our lives where we know we're going to have those moments, those opportunities to create things that we know we will remember. And so, if you have the opportunity to do that, take advantage of them. And so when I told our team, I said, we're going to try and make history, meaning we're going to try and do something literally no one has ever done before. And so there is no playbook for it. We're going to invent it as we go, and we're going to see what happens. I think what was really important about that message was that everyone was so goal motivated. It unified the whole team around what we were trying to do. And so if you have the opportunity to shoot medium or shoot big, it usually takes the same amount of work to pursue small, medium, and large goals. You're going to have time elapse either way. And so you're going to suffer either way. And so you might as well make it worth suffering for and potentially have it something that gets entered into your permanent bank of when I'm 85, I will remember this moment. And to me, I think that's the only thing that's worth living for. And so for context, for anybody who didn't know this, this launch was 4 times in terms of revenue, the highest 60-hour or week-long launch that I had heard of. And so here's partially why. So we stood up the infrastructure of $1 billion per month company in 6 weeks. I just gave you all the headcount. It was a massive headcount increase just for that 6-week period. We were able to do this because we did way more than most people were willing to, and we had to do it for a significantly longer period of time in terms of patience. Every single detail of this entire launch mattered. There wasn't anything that I honestly don't think there was any detail of this launch that wasn't checked at least 10 times. Not double or triple checked, but multiple eyes, multiple times. And we had basically an ongoing checklist system, which those of you who got the launch black book saw this. Basically on a weekly cadence, we had an entire team of people that were checking every single item to make sure that everything was still in parallel as it was getting created. From a marketing perspective, many people will think that was there some NLP and some crazy black box magic? Clarity will be clever every single time. It's how can I speak to the lowest common denominator of the audience? And I would behoove you to always take whatever you're writing or trying to sell and go down 5 grade levels. Because if you have to explain it, it's too complicated. So think about that again. If you have to take a line to explain what you just said, it's too complex. Swap it, change it, make it more elegant, because sometimes it takes more coats of paint, more letting it breathe to figure out a simpler, more elegant way to explain something or say something. From an advertising perspective, which we're going to get into first, assume everyone is in a rush, that they don't care, and they have something better to do. And do not get sick of repeating yourself because no one heard you the first time. Like, no one knows you exist. You are completely irrelevant. And I don't say that as like, you matter, you're amazing. Don't worry, protect your ego. But no one knows and no one cares. And so as much as like whatever your big thing is important for you, like everyone's living their life. And so like you might have to not shout it 20 times from the rooftop, but it might be 2,000 times. And by that you're like 1,675, you're like, I think I've said it enough times. But if you're trying to win, diminishing returns are still returns. And so history matters. This is one of the big reasons that we're able to do this that I think will make it harder to replicate. This book could not have launched without 2 other books prior. There's a reason that every Harry Potter book has sold more than the one before it, and it's because it has a larger history of readers that have been able to be exposed to it and then have consequently wanted to read the next book, right? And so if the other books, if offers and leads had not been good, money models would have not worked out. Right? If the launch for leads had not been exceptional and fun and value additive, people would not have come to the money models launch. And so these things do not happen in a vacuum. The idea of like, oh, I'm just going to do a launch like that and do it in 3 weeks. It's like, you won't because it wasn't a 3-week thing. Even it was a 6-week thing. It was a multi-year project that culminated. Another little thing, and this may blow you guys away when I show you the details. You have to give people a reason to do every single thing. A good reason to do every single thing. So just to give you an idea of the collateral that was created, this is purely the incentive stuff. Not like this was just incentives. I had to make, obviously, the Money Models hardback. I had the audiobook, which is a separate recording. We had the EPUB, which is separate. We had the private stream and the recording of that. We had the Lost Chapters, a whole nother book entirely, and edits and versions. I created another book, the 71-minute business tactics audiobook, which was for anybody who referred 10 people or more to the launch. Lost Chapters was only for people who showed up. So you notice that each of these things is like private live stream. Who was that for? That was for people who were VIP. You all were there. Lost Chapters. Who was that for? Only people who showed up. So I had to incentivize people to get the VIP. Once you're VIP, I have to incentivize you to show. If you are an affiliate or you want to refer people, I have to incentivize you to do that. We had the sales handbook and the ads handbook. Both those were how do you upgrade it and take another action so we can increase our ability to liquidate ad spend as we promoted the launch. We have this event today. This is a whole event, right? This deck, all the stuff that we prepared as a team for today, this is a whole nother thing, right? That was just one thing, it was one bullet on one page to incentivize maybe 10% or 20% more people to choose to take the VIP upgrade. We had an affiliates workshop, which those of you who did refer, you either got the stream if you at least got 10 people to come, and if you got more than that, then you were there in person. But we had a whole day with just all the people who promoted the launch. We talked about tons of marketing stuff, and I'll show you a clip from that later today. We had a top 10 winners breakfast. We had a top 10 winners dinner separately here in Vegas. We had top 10 podcasts in person. I just finished these. And then there was the playbooks, right? I had the marketing machine playbook, branding playbook, paid ads playbook, the hooks, lead nurture, closing, proof, lifetime value, retention, price raise, pricing, fast cash, the launch black book and collateral, the launch blueprint and collateral, 1,700 webinar slides, 1,000 business consultations from the team, 200 plus in-depth full-day consultations from me over 2 years, the ACQ virtual implementation workshop, ACQ AI, and that's just the stuff that we use to incentivize, not the rest of the stuff. And so I say that because like each of these things was a monster. And so this is why it's like, oh, I'll do this in 3 weeks. It's like, there's no way. There's no way. And so I don't say this to, I guess, yeah, I say this to flex. No, I say this to just show it was a lot of work. It was just like a mind-melting amount of work. And you just have to take it one day at a time. So here's my disclaimer. I'll be sharing all the behind-the-scenes numbers. I'm not holding anything back. I want this to be a marketer's wet dream, so that's what we're going to do. I think it said dream, not wet dream. I added that one. My bad. All right. So with that said, let's dive in. So this is what we try to do. So when we zoom all the way out, I had to sometimes when like all the complexity of the tech and all these integrations and stuff, became a pain in the ass. I just respond to the team and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to just get people to click a link to go live. And then when they're live, we're going to get them to go to a link to check out. And then we're going to send them their stuff. That's all we're trying to do. And so I would encourage you, like if you're doing any kind of launch, just breaking it down to like, what is actually going to happen here? We're just letting everybody know they're going to get at one place at one time. Once they're all there, we're going to tell them to go somewhere else and take their credit card out. And then from there, we're going to give them their stuff. That's it. And so everything is in service of that mission. And so end result, for those of you who didn't know, we did 105.5 million. So this was a screenshot I took like after midnight. We did 3.6 million copies sold in that period of time. These are all the stats. So we had 581,000 people, almost 582,000 who registered for the launch. We had 79,000 people, y'all, who did VIP, which is great. We had a 13.6% VIP uptake rate. That's number of people who take the first upsell of like, hey, you're coming to the book launch, grab a book. Then after that, we had a smaller percent, I think it was 5 or 6%. I'll show you the chart in a second, of people who, there it is, 5.4, who took the ascension rates for the order bump. So if others are like, hey, what are the stats for this funnel? Like, they're the stats for the funnel. They're right there. And so then obviously that resulted in the Guinness World Record. Now, if you're like, how does that say 2.9? That's because I was in 24. The launch was 60 hours. So we sold another 700,000-ish copies over the next 1.5 days. So here's the agenda. Number one, how we advertised it, the full data. Number two, how we built it, exact steps. And number three, how we sold it. And I think many of you guys will be extremely excited about the third point. So I'm going to give you a full play-by-play of the highest grossing webinar of all time. So I'll explain every kind of chunk of the webinar, what its objective was, why every word earned its spot. Because when you have hundreds of thousands of people who are going to watch something, every word needs to pay rent. And so if there's not a clear point for its existence, it shouldn't exist. And so this thing had been vacuum sealed and packed so that functionally we ended up having to do 2 webinars in the time of one to give away the free stuff and then ultimately make the donation offer, which is what we did. And I'll walk you through the entire thing. So let's start with how we advertised it. So the whole objective here was just get people to click on that day. That was it. So the registration page itself, learnings from last year or last time to this time. If I say last year, I mean last launch. We tested a ton of different headlines. This book is so good it should be illegal. Ended up being the winner over the long haul, especially as we got to colder and colder traffic. In the short term, get more customers, spend more money in less time was the winner to short to medium. Warm to medium, lukewarm audience. As we got colder and colder, this was the winning headline. And so for those of you who do run ads, especially at scale, it is not uncommon to see your headlines and subheadlines change as the temperature of the audience changes too. Number one. Number two, last year's opt-in page was literally just headline, subheadline, and then phone number and email. It had nothing else, right? This year, I wanted to put more effort into increasing lead quality. And so my opt-in rate last year, I think, was around 50%. I'd have to pull it, but it was around 50%, which is pretty exceptional. This year, the opt-in rate, I think, was 30-ish, and I'll show you all the stats again. And we had significantly more friction this time. You'll also note that this is still a relatively short page, almost no copy. We did have a video there, and it just popped up. And you'll see here, instead of just saying, hey, I just want your number, I just want your email, which is more common for something like this if you're going to just do a live stream, I wanted to collect full data. And the main reason for that is if I'm going to spend $4 or $5 million on just ads alone, I would prefer to get everyone's information. So it's like, are you a business owner? If so, how much do you make? There's other uses, obviously, that we have at acquisition.com for better quality data. And I do take the position that if someone's not willing to give some of that information, I'm willing to pay more for leads that are worth more. And so here's 3 little pro tips for you. Number one, you can delay the form until they click the button. So this is a 2-step. We almost always find that this converts higher than having a straight form on the page. So basically, They click the button and then it pops. Very small thing, but it does increase in most of the tests that we run. Next is if you do have an opt-in page, most people put way too much on the opt-in page. We want to draw as much attention. Basically, we want to give them nothing else to do besides opt-in. So it's big curiosity, big reason why, opt-in, get out of the way. That's more or less what I have found has worked exceptionally well for squeeze pages or opt-in pages. And then the friction piece I already touched on, which is and I'm going to give you some really good numbers to back this up. In my career, as I have continued to market, a lot of the solutions to scaling are they're counterintuitive. So what I mean is, you typically, us as entrepreneurs, will typically do the intuitive ideas that come to us. And because if it's the intuitive idea and it's the right plan, then you'll just not even think about it. It's just, well, this is the obvious choice, I'll do it, and then it works, and you move on. When you get stuck, sometimes it's the counterintuitive solutions that are the right ones because all the intuitive ones you've already tried. And so this is what makes, I think, rarefied air from a marketing perspective. When we add friction to a funnel, all of our costs go up, but our ROAS typically also goes up, meaning our return on ad spend. So if we add friction, we try to increase lead quality, our lead costs, our cost per call, costs across the funnel will typically go up, but so too will our returns. And the relative return also goes up. And I'll give you some really cool stats on this in a second. But many of you try to take too much friction out of the funnel because you want cheaper leads rather than better returns. So think on that. We obviously incorporated money models within it. To be clear, this was a free with consumption, which is one of the plays that's inside of Lost Chapters for those of you guys who have that. The other attraction offer we use is pay less now, pay more later, plus a giveaway, so it's combined. And so the front end offer on the way in was pay $29 now. This is VIP, this is why y'all are here. Get the book first, get the private stream, get this event we're doing here right now, and have the in-person giveaway of if you want to come, you'll get selected to come out in person. Right, so there's 4 independent variables that were all reasonably valuable. Now, the next one is the other offer, right? Which is you can also just pay later and get the same book and get nothing else. And so the pay now has super strong incentives. If you have any intention of buying a book, why would you not get it now, right? And so a note that I have found on bonuses, I mean, every single one of these bullets, like we labored over of like, do you want to do this or this? And we had this big list of different ideas for each one of these items. And so my big rule of thumb for bonuses is that any of the bonuses in and of themselves should be reason enough for someone to pay the full price of the bonus. Said differently, if all we said was if you pre-order it, you get it first, for some people that is enough for them to buy. If I said, hey, if you pre-order for $20, you'll get a private live stream rather than being with Gen Pop or the riffraff of the internet, as I like to say, that would be reason enough for many people. Being able to have free tickets to an event like this with all the behind-the-scenes metrics, which I'm going to get into with the charts in a second, that for many people would be worth $29. And then just a chance to come on out and spend a day in person at acquisition.com, talk about business with other people who have the same values as you. That in and of themselves would have been worth some people just choosing like, well, I might as well buy it now. And so with each individual bullet, I use that as my litmus test is, could I sell this on its own? And I think most times when I read these lists of bonuses, because I see y'all stuff, a lot of them are weak, right? There's too many of them. And so better to have fewer better than more weaker. Because typically only one of them will be the one that actually pushes the consumer over the edge. And so you just don't know which one it's going to be, but every single one of them needs to be able to. And then finally, with the upsell offer was buy X, get Y free. So it was donate 15 books, and you get the ads handbook and the sales handbook, which are internal handbooks, for free. So that was a cool little offer, and I think we had 5.5-ish % that took that. And I'll show you some cool stats on that in a second. So for the launch, we used all 8 methods. We had a big affiliate component. We used outsourced agencies for some of the media buying. We used, obviously, the reception agency. We used employees to carry out a lot of the stuff. We had customer referrals. Many of you guys referred people. We did outreach to get the larger affiliates. We ran paid ads, and we posted content. We did all 8 to promote this thing. And so these are the advertising channels I'm going to focus on because I think it'll be the ones that'll be highest ROI for you guys. So email, organic content, paid ads, referrals, and affiliates. So that's what I'm going to break down for you guys today. So let's start with email. So we had campaigns written out for every single objective. And it's kind of like I said at the beginning. every detail mattered, and we took care to pay attention to all of it. Every single one of them had multiple fresh eyes, multiple times over time that looked at it to make sure that it was right and that it was the fastest, most elegant way of communicating whatever it is we wanted the person to do. And so right here is what I would consider the main line. So this is the core of the advertising campaign from an email strategy perspective. Now, most of this might differ slightly from how you might do it. Now, if you have a warm audience or you have an email list, you already know who you are, most of it is just different angles on reasons why someone should come, right? Now, in the beginning, all of it was around getting people to register for the launch, register for the launch. And that's what all of the incentive was, register. Now, when people register, they also have the option to pre-order, which creates some self-liquidation so we can spend more on the advertising. Now, in this period, we sent 43 million emails. 43 million emails. In, was it 30 days or 6 weeks? It was 6 weeks. 6 weeks. So 43 million emails. And I'll show you what we said in the last like just the weekend. Now, for each of these, we always spell out the don't path. So it's like there's obviously everyone who's on the email list and registers, but then there's the people who don't register. Well, we still want them to register and then eventually show. The next is we had register to VIP. Once you have registered, how do we get you to upgrade? And if you didn't upgrade, how do we get you to upgrade? And if you did finally do it, how do we get you to become an affiliate? So each of these have these paths of if then, if then, if then. And so you can see them right here. We had an abandoned cart, so we get people to buy. We had to get people to refer. We had to make sure that they got registered. All of these were things that we had to, each of these were campaign objectives, and everyone ran through them depending on their situation. Now, once we had either people, like basically people were in one of three conditions. They had given us their information at some point in the past, but didn't take any action. We still try to get you to show. If you did register at some point, we try to get you to show. If you were a VIP, we try to get you to show. And so each of those were separate campaigns to increase the likelihood that you actually show up at the time at the right day. Now, you can see, look at the difference in terms of total volume of emails as we go from 45 days out to 24. Like, look at the amount of emails and texts that changed from 24 hours on. This is launch day. Now, some of you guys might see this, and it might freak you out. And I will hopefully break some of those beliefs today. And if I can do that, then I'll feel okay about it. Remember, no one knows you exist. And if you have been providing value for an extended period of time, if you remind people of something that's important to you and that you think would be valuable to them, great. And if that person is offended by you reaching out on something that's super important and important to you and valuable to them, then they probably aren't going to buy from you anyways. Especially like if you just do that all the time, for sure. But if you provide a lot of value for an extended period of time and then only for a short window, you say, hey, check this thing out. If they're not into it, then they're probably not. If they're not going to buy, then they're probably never going to buy. So, here's a couple themes. Number one is, for all of this, I try to have some sort of curiosity-centric theme. And so 2 years ago, it was better than a gift card, less than a Tesla. And so this year's take on that was, it was better than an NFT and less than a Bitcoin, right? And so I purposely use those things because, you know, crypto always has lots of controversial trending stuff. And I was okay with some of the whispers that would come from that. But fundamentally, people were like, well, what is this about? And the reason that I didn't say, hey, it's the lost chapters is because the lost chapters will only provide value to somebody who's already read my books. And a huge percentage of people have not read all the books. And certainly there's tons of people there's more people in the world who haven't read the books at all, right? And so I can't say, hey, remember that thing that you never read? This thing's also like that. Not relevant. So I want to allow somebody's imagination to fill in the gaps around curiosity. And so I find that to be more powerful than even being specific. So the reason that money works well is because everyone understands, like money is almost like an imaginary thing in that money is a construct to get to whatever else you want. So it's almost like a wild card, right, in terms of real world use case. And so I prefer to use wildcards. I prefer to use curiosity rather than be explicit about the thing unless that thing provides significant value to a core audience. Now, if you're in a niche, right, if I'm going to do, if I was in the gym space, right, I might do $50,000 giveaway of gym equipment. That would be something that would be valuable to everyone in that niche, right? But if the broader you go, the more you want to let the audience's curiosity fill in the gaps for you, because their imagination will do better than your copy ever will. We put a ton of investment, and I wanted to demonstrate the proof of that investment as a reason that it was a big deal. And so basically, like, the bigger deal we make it, and this is woven in throughout the copy, there's curiosity is kind of the first layer. The next layer was, and you notice, is like how many people have signed up, how much we've spent on this thing. Now, that feels like it could break the what's in it for me law of marketing. I do think that there's a proxy for this guy is going all out. He's going to make this a good deal. It'll be worth me showing up because of how much effort he put into it. And so I take that perspective. Now, if you just try to flex money, then there is no what's in it for me. But if there's a clear line that someone can take from, like, oh, this is going to be a big thing, then there is something in it for them. The next piece was, okay, the themes of the content, the themes of the emails were around the core concept of the book, right? Different authors do different things in terms of promotion. I prefer to keep curiosity rather than, some people just read the whole book and then, out loud, and most of it's already out there. I prefer to keep as much of it secret as possible. And for me, the core concept of the book was cash flow, and specifically accelerating cash flow within a business. Now, that topic is something that for sure skews towards business owners. And so on the way in, we had almost 2/3 of people who signed up for the launch who were business owners. And so that was different than the launch that we did with leads, where it was flipped. And that's because getting leads, getting your first 5 customers, is a much more seeker-oriented titling or concept. And so I would say, whatever your topic of the thing that you're going to launch is, do not underestimate how important it matching your ideal avatar is for increasing the likelihood that the right people are attracted to the message. Most people would think that cash flow is a more complex topic, and it is a more advanced topic, but this was a more advanced webinar for a more advanced audience. This was a word that I continue to repeat to myself from my mentor. He said, if you want something to be a big deal, then make it a big deal. Like, no one will know that your launch of whatever kind is a big deal unless you tell them it's a big deal and you shout it from the rooftops and you do not shut up about it. And that may feel cringy to you, but no one even knows you're doing it because no one cares. Clear over clever, you'll probably see this a bunch of times. Be louder and be willing to repeat more times. Like, I just can't say, like, the amount of times that I had to repeat the same thing, you'll see, was mind-numbing. But still, when it's that one time that someone hears it and it's the first ad that they saw, that's the first time they heard it. So you just have to completely divorce yourself from what would be considered social norms in order to truly advertise something big. Now, some people have a lot of hesitations around asking. And so I want to speak to that, which is, there is nothing wrong with capitalism, and there is nothing wrong with making a product available for purchase. If people don't want to buy it, it's voluntary exchange. That's how capitalism works. You cannot worry about what people who will never buy your stuff say about how offended they are that you made it available for other people who will. You give, and then you ask. That's all. And then after that, you can continue to give. No big deal. And as long as the thing that you're asking for is something that you believe is a give, like when Steve Jobs talks about his products, he talks about products as gives. So it was never like, he was like, well, Apple wasn't offended by saying that they have a new thing that came out. They know that people are going to love it. And as long as the product's exceptional, people will come back again. The issue is that the vast majority of business owners' products suck. And so it is an ask when really, if the products are exceptional, people will buy them. And they'll buy the next one. And so for those who've already read the Money Models book and gone through the Money Models course, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it so far. That took so much time of my life. And I was very convicted that it was a very good product. And so if I were to today say, hey, I have a 4th book that's $100 million, sales, for example, I don't, slow down, calm down. If I were to say that, many people would be like, I'm in, let's get it, because the last product was good. And so as long as the products are good, you have more permission from your audience to continue to ask. So then we ladder into, why do we give to begin with? Now, of course, there's the like, I want to make an impact, I want to help people, and all that stuff's great, phenomenal. But for those of you who are capitalists and make content because you want to pay your bills, feed your family, have a mortgage, eventually retire, and have something that you have saved up, we give so that we can ask. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying like everything is purely transactional. It is kind of, just on an extended time horizon. So we give so that we can increase the likelihood that someone complies with a request of ours in the future, right? And we do that by rewarding them by taking action prior to that. And so if someone takes action and a good thing happens, and they do that over and over and over again, eventually you can say, hey, take an action, and they will predict that a good thing will happen because good things have happened in the past. This is why selling to a cold audience versus a warm audience is significantly harder, because you have no history of reinforcement. Now, I'll tell you a story about this that's very real. So I showed you the emails, and we sent, I think it's 33 million emails over, I think the number might have popped up, 33 million emails just over that 72-hour-ish period. Now, 72 million emails, 32 million emails, geez, 33 billion emails is a ton of emails. Now, as a result, our deliverability score dropped by 2 points, and we have a very good deliverability score for our emails. That's why I do Hormozi Minutes for those of you guys who read those. I send 2 of those a week, and I send them 2 a week, like clockwork, throughout the year. And they're just pure value. Here you go, rip it off, use it, takes 60 seconds, deploy in your business. Hopefully it makes you money. But for that period, we blasted, and our deliverability score was dropping. And so my team came to me and said, hey, I really don't want to sacrifice our deliverability score. And I said, why do we have a deliverability score? So that when it comes time to ask, we can ask. That is the point. We build the goodwill, we toe the line, we do all the good stuff, we follow the rules, we do all that stuff, so that when the opportunity comes, you can take advantage, you can capitalize, right? Like when the iron is hot is when you strike. And I think a lot of earlier times in my career, I pulled punches, and that was a mistake. When you do all the work, when you set everything up right, go big, or don't go at all. And so you have to be willing to make trades. Am I willing to trade 2 weeks where my deliverability score, by the way, since the launch, or deliverability score is right back to where it was? And so am I willing to trade, 8 weeks, I guess it's been now, of lower deliverability on emails for that period of time to have an increase in sales and more people knowing about it? Hell yeah. And so I think people are very gun shy, and it's usually the wrong people. Like the people who are hardcore sales direct response guys, like you probably need to dial it back a little bit. But the guys who have built brands, you're making content, you're providing value to an audience, you guys are usually the ones who are more scared. And it's like you're the ones that you can go a little further. You can ask a few more times and you'll be okay. So that was big picture email strategy that we did. Those are the themes of the emails. Those are the kind of through lines. I didn't think saying like, here's a bunch of templates was going to be valuable for you. And so I wanted to talk about like, these are the things that you'll swap out for your campaign. You probably have one big curiosity thing. You'll probably have some core concept that you're talking about, which you want to make sure is relevant to your core audience. You want to demonstrate that it's a very big deal, which you can demonstrate with proof of investment in both time and money, which is why like me showing things from 2 years ago, prepping for this launch, and the trucks full of books, like all of these things are just demonstrating of how big of a deal this is for me, and shouting it until your eyes bleed and you're spitting up blood because of how many times you're doing it. Okay. So organic content, the content and outputs. So for us, we changed CTAs across all socials the moment we announced the book. If you are going to promote, then promote. We added book-related content on top of the existing cadence. So this is something I think a lot of people, they switch all their content over to purely whatever they're launching about. And I think people can grow tired of that. And so I would just rather make more content. So take what you're currently making and just add in on top whatever your promotional activity is. And so when you do it that way, I think you continue to keep your normal, now it's more work, obviously, but this has worked really well for us on both launches. So share, use if you want. Now, the amount of pieces that were organic by platform was usually only like 20 to 30. It was not a huge amount, relative to the amount of stuff that we make. And so this is across, and I'll show you how we think about this. It's like YouTube Shorts, YouTube community posts, we see as separate. All of these are kind of separate platforms, even though they exist all on YouTube. They're all different content, right? And you've got LinkedIn, You've got TikTok, you've got X, you've got Pods, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got Threads, all of these things. We created 20 to 30. Some of them were reused or repurposed across all of them so that we could drive. Now, I'll be clear here. Your content, short-term, long-term. Long-term, absolutely how you'd have a big launch of whatever it is that you want. Short-term is not the content that's going to drive it. It's going to be your ads. It's going to be the emails that you send because that's the audience that you can reach directly. Whereas content is going to depend on the algorithm, and you're not going to get the reach that you otherwise would want or would be able to have with other platforms. Now, leading up, I doubled up my content cadence. So from recording once a week to twice a week, full days, to make sure that we keep up with the ads, we keep up with the demands on VSLs, things like that. This is what we had to do in order to put out the amount of content that we did during the launch. And so these were some of the themes that were in the content. Now, similar to emails, but slightly different. So with the content, it was more what's in it for me. So this is like, especially with some of the long stuff, I went deeper on topics within the book. Specifically, instead of saying, here's the 24 chapters, it was more, here are the 4 types of offers. And I gave, I think, 3 or 4 examples of some of the cool, sexy offers. But I still want people who buy the book to read the book. And one of my big pet peeves, I don't know if you guys ever had this happen, is like you watch a bunch of movie trailers and then you go to a movie theater and you watch the whole movie and you're like, I already saw all the good parts in the trailers. This is back when movie theaters were a thing. But when that would happen, I was just like, this sucks. And I never want that. I never want to do that as a marketer for a product. And so I want to just give just enough, the smallest amount of teas that people are very curious and they can see what's in it for them and they show up. Big deal, repeated theme, core concept, obviously cash conversion cycle. I explained that in more detail. That's what drove the 2/3 business owners. Again, that was flipped from leads launch, which was very big. Now, short-term, long-term. So think about if you want to launch anything, you have a short-term and long-term strategy. The long-term strategy, the thing that's going to build the snowball, is going to be the content. So it's going to be you doing content for 2 years and then launching something, whether it's a service, a product, a software, or whatever, right? E-commerce. You building for that period of time. But when launch time comes, it's not the content that's going to drive it. You'll get some, but the vast majority will be from the other stuff. So I want to wrap this little content section with this concept of the third marshmallow fallacy. And this applies to like all things in life, not just marketing. So let me know, actually, is there a marshmallow emoji? I think there is, right? If there is a marshmallow emoji, drop it in the chat. Many of you probably heard the old science study of, they get 2 kids if they give a kid a marshmallow now versus the kid waiting 20 minutes for a second marshmallow. The kids that waited 20 minutes were more successful in life, right? Okay. What happens, though, is that if you are the type of person who learns how to delay gratification, so this is me talking specifically to the winners, once you learn to flex that muscle, what happens is it becomes rewarding. And so you say, oh, I delayed gratification, I won. I stopped eating cookies, I got a 6-pack. I started working out more even though I didn't want to, I got more jacked. I waited for a better girl and then I got a better girl, whatever it is, right? You delay gratification and then you get better, you get more gratification. Now, here's the difficulty, is that once that loop is reinforced, we then begin to believe that we should delay gratification indefinitely. And that is the fallacy that I'll call the third marshmallow fallacy, which is that I can wait so long for my second marshmallow that it's going to be worth the wait. So let me put it back in the original terms. If they said, you get 1 marshmallow today, or you'll get a second marshmallow in 20 years, you should probably just take the first marshmallow. Now, within that context, if you are going to delay gratification, the real world works more like this. You have an option for 1 today, and you have an option for like 20 marshmallows in a year or 2. But that 20 marshmallows is still 20 marshmallows in 3 or 4 years. And so it doesn't not necessarily exponentially go up. You have moments where you can make the ask, and then you do not sacrifice anything, and then you continue to build up for whatever your next marshmallow is. And so if you delay gratification indefinitely, you never get gratified. And so then you simply suffer the entire time and get nothing. And so there is a sweet spot of when is the right time to ask. And you also risk, especially if we're talking from an audience perspective, people go into windows of consumption. And so there are probably periods you can think about people that you consumed. Maybe some of you guys are in a window of consumption for me right now because this is the period of your life where business is super important to you. But some of you guys will go and relationship stuff will be more important to you in a few months, or it'll be weight loss stuff or whatever. And then maybe I'll see you in a year, or maybe I'll see you in 2 years, or maybe I'll see you never, right? And so there are these moments where people are all constantly in and out, and it's not like we have this permanent audience. That attention is earned every day. And so us not ever being open or willing to make an ask, long-term sacrifices the goal. What is the point? And so I bring this up because this is something that I am predisposed to. I am a child of delayed gratification. But when I realized that if you take it all the way out to the end, it's a loss. And so it's a dichotomy to be managed, not a problem to solve. It's not I delay indefinitely. It's I delay until a point where the trade makes sense. And then you ask like you mean it. So that's email and organic. Third is ads. So this one will be very interesting for, I think this will be the marketers don't get too aroused. All right. So this is revenue by platform and strategy. All right. So Twitter ads, some of our best ROAS, you'll see that in a second. These were TikTok ads. This is by percentage of revenue. This is revenue they generated. So TikTok ads got us 265,000. TikTok brought in 2.5 million. Google ads brought in 14.8. So Google includes YouTube. So both search and YouTube are put into Google. The affiliate program, so those of you who referred, was 19.72. Meta ads, so that's Instagram and Facebook, was 28.5. And then organic / direct and or no attribution. So that was the spread in terms of our advertising efforts as it relates to revenue. Now, you're like, how is it some of these so low? I'll explain a little more detail. So Meta ads, we spent 2.86 million on Meta, made 28.36, so 9.91x. ROAS, we got 239,000 leads. We generated 38,000 sales. Our cost per lead was almost $12. All right, so I told you I'm going to show you all the numbers. This is the goods. Like no one wants to show you this stuff. This is what it is. That's what we spent. Google ads, we spent 1.52 million, generated 14.8 million. So another, just under 10x ROAS. We got 96,616 leads, 17 leads, 15,000 sales. Cost per lead was significantly higher. YouTube was, for lack of a term, a bee sting. Well, I guess that is the better term. So there you go. It was, I want to say, a week or two, we were averaging $30+ a lead. It was mental. And then I think YouTube just found they finally got the targeting, clicking, and then all of a sudden it kind of came back down to reality. And I bring this up because, mind you, we're spending like $100,000 a day as we're trying to get it to figure itself out. I bring this up because sometimes the platforms, you have to give it more data. You have to run more water through the pipe in order to really get it to scale. And I have found that Google, at least with we have three portfolio companies spent over $1 million a month in ads, many millions a month. And so common theme that I've found is that when you're really trying to scale, Meta's more consistent, and the cost will kind of linearly go up. If you're advertising correctly, which I'll explain in a second. A lot of you guys hit a wall and then you're like, I can't spend past this. I'll explain why that's happening in a moment. But if you're on YouTube and Google specifically, or YouTube specifically, I've noticed that it's almost egregiously expensive. And then as you scale, it becomes more efficient, which almost makes no sense. But that has been my experience. TikTok ads. So this was great. So we spent $140,000 and we got 2.5 million in revenue. That was 17.8 ROAS. Now some of you might be like, why didn't you spend more on TikTok? Believe me, we tried. TikTok made it unbelievably difficult for us to give them money. I was like, I will wire you money if you will spend this. We continue to get our account shut down. And so for those who were like, do these things affect Alex? Yes, everyone deals with the black box BS that all these platforms do. I was like, for God's sake, it's a free book launch. I couldn't be more vanilla. And it was just spending. It would throttle our ads. It sucked. But yeah, obviously that would have been nice to crank. Now, to be clear, it did have higher ROAS. If we looked at Meta in the first few days, the ROAS was way higher, and then obviously at scale it comes down. Next was X or Twitter ads. You're like, why am I including this 16,000? Because, well, we still did 266,000 in revenue. I do think part of this is because my X, for those of you who actually, anybody here follow me on X? Can I get an X in the chat? I'm actually super curious. Yeah, I'm very curious if anybody here follows me on X, because that's actually the platform I spend the most time on. Okay, we got some X people. Oh, damn. All right, what's up? We got X in the house. Anyways, on X, I think there's a slightly higher income on average than some of the other platforms, and so it made sense to me that that platform would do significantly better. But we actually had issues with targeting and stuff there too, so kind of a pain. So all in all, so that was the paid side. So in terms of like media buying. Now the second part of this is what's the creative strategy for the ads, right? So number one, right off the bat, before we did the launch, before we even got into what I would consider to be launch season, we spent the 6 months leading up recording ads for basically to bank them. So we banked 1,000 ads before we began the launch. And so I bring this up because if you are going to launch, like everything's going to be chaos during that period of time. And so it's like, I want to do as much pre-work. I want to dig the well as deep as I can before I'm thirsty. And so we had 1,000 preloaded in the gun before we even needed to make iterations and make tweaks during the 6-week kind of campaign as it scaled up. One of the other things that some of you guys might have found out, this is recent, the Andromeda update by Meta. This only affects Meta, but plenty of you guys probably use Meta if you do run Facebook ads. The Andromeda update right now favors significantly or net new creative. So basically, if you have two things that look similar, Meta is trying to create a more unique user experience. So imagine you're scrolling and you see a black and white ad with yellow text that has some message on it, right? If that message is just tweaked 6 times on the same look and feel to a consumer, they're not going to notice the difference between the subtle shifts in headline change. And so as a result, it almost looks like they're seeing the same thing again, which I would imagine, I didn't talk to Zuck, but I would imagine Zuck is trying to make the experience better and as a result not have things be repeated, which is why you don't see the same organic piece over and over and over again most of the time unless it's some super viral thing, right? And so ads typically are not viral, and so that should hopefully make sense. But for those of you who are making ads, it is more about making more creative rather than more tiny tweaks on creative, and this is a shift in creative strategy. It will benefit those of you who lean into affiliates and UGC so that you have huge different types of variety. Another key update that I will share with you that we have found is that just like in content, the content is the targeting. This is shifting more and more in paid ads. And so your targeting is increasingly, almost to a scary degree, related to what is in the ad. And so if you want a specific type of person or interest group, say that in the ad and in the copy, and the AI will find those people. So it's less about the button clicking and so much more on the creative itself. And so these are just two of the things that one you should probably just be aware of. But as we went into the launch, we tend to do lots of creative. I mean, you guys saw it. And so that actually benefited us. So the next, well, actually, Andromeda came out afterwards, but whatever. You get the idea. Next, mistakes. I'll share with you one of the biggest mistakes that I made from an advertising perspective. So when I did my preloaded 1,000 ads, the mistake that I made is that I made almost all of the ads. So those of you, hopefully, if you follow me, you should know this. Eugene Schwartz, levels of awareness, right? You have 5 levels of awareness for any kind of targeting. You've got unaware, so people have no idea, all the way down to most aware. These are people who already know about you. They already know about your products. Then you've got problem aware. You've got solution aware. You've got product aware. And then you've got basically past customers, right? And so the problem that we actually ran into a wall, and it was a little bit freaky for like a week and a half there, where we had already recorded all these ads, but almost all the ads that I'd made in my preloaded 1,000, almost all targeted like here, or maybe if I was being lucky, here. I left out basically the top 2 segments, which are by far the biggest segments of advertising, which are business owners who either don't know who I am, don't know about the books, don't know that they have a problem that cash flow is not as good as it should be, or they're just aware about cash flow as their problem, but not what they could potentially do about it. And so I made way too many ads that I would say were offer driven or brand driven or past history of my books driven, and not nearly enough that were like, hey, you're struggling to get leads right now? Hey, is cash limiting your growth? Is your ability to get new talent limited by your ability to pay and attract good people? Like, these would all be people who are aware of the fact they have a problem. They don't know my solution, but I could begin an ad here. And so I had to scramble during basically week 2 to 3 to record all these ads, get them processed, get them edited, and then get them up basically for the last 10 days of the launch, which we ramped like crazy. So that was one of my big mistakes. That was the awareness period. And that was, so if you are going to launch the campaign, I would want to make sure that you have more ads up here, disproportionately more ads up here, and then fewer ads down here, because these are going to convert. They're going to be your warmer audience. They're almost all going to work. You don't need nearly as much as you do up here, where you need a lot of variety for people who are colder. Okay, so this one is so sexy. I'm actually really excited to share this with you. So so I'll give you some math. So who here would rather have $5 leads or $17 leads? Which would you rather have? $5 or $17 leads? Obviously, the answer is it depends. So we had 2 campaign objectives that we ran during this. We had a CPL and we had a ROAS campaign. So we had a campaign that optimized for cheapest leads, and we had a campaign that optimized for return on ad spend. Now, on our CPL campaign, every one of these $5 leads was worth $20. Not bad, 4 to 1. On our ROAS campaigns, who wants to guess what now you saw some of them blended, but blended ROAS, $17 leads, $189. So would you rather $5 lead or a $17 lead? Well, you get 4 to 1 here. We're getting 11 and change to 1 here. So I have way better returns. And the reason I wanted to emphasize this is because many of you advertise to make money on some level, and you continue to optimize for how can I get cheaper leads. It is the wrong question. And the thing is you might think to yourself, oh, of course, of course ROAS matters, but this is my process, and if I get cheaper leads, I'll get higher ROAS. Typically, it's an order of magnitude shift in thinking around who the avatar is, and there is a subsegment of your audience that is worth significantly more, and the cost of getting those leads is more, but less relative to what you make. And so maybe 1 out of 3 people who are in this bucket are actually in this bucket, but this bucket is willing to spend 11 times more. In which case, why don't we advertise to these people? So we change our messaging, we change our targeting, and we change our pricing and our price points to make sure that we're getting the highest ROAS. And so, again, this is so that you do not fear lead costs go up. Lead costs are irrelevant. It's like, what's the price of something? Well, it doesn't matter. It depends on the value. This is the price. This is the value. They have to exist together. And too many times it's like, we need cheaper leads. It's like, bro, you need to make more. And again, remember I talked about earlier about counterintuitive solutions? This is one of those well, intuitively you want it to go down. It's counterintuitive to say, no, I'm going to add friction, I'm going to add qualifications, we get fewer leads, and I'm going to make more money. So what happened in terms of creative? We made 2,600 ads, so we had our 1,000 ad goal leading up, and so we obviously hit that. And then everything past that, so the 1,600-ish or 15, whatever it is, ads that we made those basically in that 6-week period, which was mental. You can see the split there between image and video. You can use those percentages if you want. I don't think there was nearly as much rhyme or reason. Carousels did disproportionately well. So if I could do this over again, I would have done more carousels. The carousels were high-performing organic content with CTAs related to the book. Now, this is what it looked like from a leads perspective per day of the launch, okay? So when you see this, though, I bring this up because you're going to have the stomach for something like this. And I'm going to give you stats around why you need to have a stomach for something like this. And I told the team before we launched this whole thing, I said, we're going to feel like geniuses, and then we're going to feel like idiots, and then we're going to feel like geniuses the last week. And that's almost identical to what happened. We said, hey, we're doing the book launch. We got a big wave of people. We're like, we're geniuses. This is going to be amazing. And then for like 5 weeks, you just get kicked in the nuts every single day. And then the last 3 days, it just blows up. And the problem is, you just have to have faith that it's going to work and that you did all of this work, you spent all of this money, you prepared for all this time, and 72 hours is going to make or break it. Like, you have to have stomach for this. And I think what's interesting about this is it speaks a lot to human behavior in general, and this is going to relate super big to part 3 of this, which is about the pitch. People need a reason to take action, and it's almost exclusively at the beginning and end. So people need a reason to take action now, and then until there's a terminal endpoint of like they have to take action by this point, they basically do nothing until that point. And so you have a big spike at the beginning, big spike at the end. And so engineering these peak moments repeatedly over and over again throughout a sales process is what will drive more conversions. Now, obviously, how do you do that in an ethical way without creating false urgency, false scarcity? I'll talk about that a lot in the webinar in part 3. Okay, so based on the 42-day campaign sprint, this is the nutty math. So 26% of leads came in the last 14th of the campaign. All right, we had 74,000 leads in 1/14 of the time. All right, the last 7 days, 44% of the leads. So this might sound like, oh yeah, 44% of the leads. It's like, bro, think about this. You have a goal. Let's say you're like, I want to get to, whatever your number is. I want to get to 10,000 leads opting in for my thing. Fine, 10,000 leads. You've been advertising for 5 weeks, and you're at 5,000. And you have 1 week left, and you're like, I don't know if we're going to make it. And so, but like it happens like this every single time. And so I'm telling you, if it's happening like that for you, and you can look at the actual numbers here, you can come back to it whenever you do whatever you're launching, like this curve has been validated. Okay. Now, cost per lead. You can see this. Cost per lead went up. It almost triples, right? From beginning to end. I went over the campaign objectives. I brought that up. I do think that optimizing for quality over quantity, a good idea. We did make that decision to go over quality. I think we spent a very small percentage on the CPL campaign. I think it was like the last day or two. We spent a little bit on it. But when I saw these numbers, I felt very confirmed that we had made the right call to just be willing to spend way more for fewer, better leads. Some of you guys don't know this. I was going for 2 world records, not 1. And so I wanted to hit obviously the book record. That was the big one. That was the main one. And then I was like, we've got a shot at breaking the all-time stream record for a book launch, which was 151,000. I think we had 130 at peak. And so we didn't hit that one. And as we were going to the event, my team was like, hey, we can go like heavy optimize on leads. And I made the call not to do that because the Guinness record for sales was significantly more important to me than the attendance record. But I could have just like sprayed, a ton of ads to get way cheaper leads in, and I think it would have made the whole thing worse, and I think it would have had terrible comments, and it just would have sucked. And so ultimately I ended up not doing that, and I think it was the right decision. And the main reason is because you got to keep the main thing the main thing. The whole point was to break the Guinness World Record, and we did it. Look at this opt-in rate drop-off. All right. Now, also, I will note that YouTube, at least for us historically, has had way lower opt-in rates compared to Meta and TikTok. So I just share that with you guys. This is blended. Continue to go down. Makes sense. Colder and colder traffic. And that's just the nature of it. Maybe could have run more tests, but those were the actual results as we hit it. So again, quality over quantity. I could have probably just made it go pure email or email and phone, and I could have jacked that up. But if someone's not willing to give, just who they are, I think the likelihood that they A, show up, and B, make a purchasing decision feels low. And so I'm just willing to ask for more. And I told you guys the stat was 2/3 of people were business owners. So this is a very business owner-centric event. Also note link CTRs in terms of ads that cut in half throughout the whole campaign. This makes sense. Colder traffic was lower. We had a 50% drop beginning to end. Nothing crazy there. I more show this to you guys so that like when it happens to you, you're not like, what's happening? OTO take rate. This was the one that surprised me a ton. So the OTO, just for definitions, the bump was the $29 VIP offer, which you guys all took. The OTO was the ads handbook. It was this guy. It was the ads handbook and the sales handbook. I have a dark one that's around here somewhere, but the ads handbook and the sales handbook. These were the OTO one-time offers. If you donated 15 bucks, you got both of those for free. And so that was the offer. But what's really interesting is that to cold traffic, all the ways we scaled, it stayed about the same. And so to me, that indicated that those were independently valuable, independent of brand affinity, which again, I found interesting because like, I thought the sales handbook was going to, I thought it was going to smoke because it's fucking so good. But it was weird because it was just consistently at the same amount. So it was like, it didn't go down as much as I thought, but it didn't start as high as I thought. It just stayed the same. So interesting one for me. VIP purchases, so this is all of you guys, by the day. So this was not a surprise. As the cost of waiting went down, the relative value of getting more for the same money went up. So basically, this had a counteractive effect that basically as we approach the day of the launch, the value of pre-ordering goes up because the amount of time you have to wait to get your book goes down, and the value of the benefits of getting it sooner and getting a private live stream and getting selected, all of those things go up as you approach the time, and the cost, the price remain the same. And so if you do have something that's an event, having something that's time related, a little bit gutsy, but at the same time you can see the spike there. VIPs versus bumps, again, one was super constant, the other one kind of went up. One had time related benefits. The OTOs did not have any, it should say OTO, not or bump, that's on me. The OTOs did not have any kind of time-related benefit, and so it didn't really change. So just kind of interesting stuff for me. Revenue per day, straightforward, 70, average 70-ish a day as we were leading up, and then the last 3 days it went up by a lot. Note that the ROAS drops as you go to colder audiences. Now you're like, hey, how did revenue go up? Well, we spent a lot more. And we literally had to fight to spend this money. It was not easy. The amount of times we had to get on with reps to unblock our accounts. I had to offer to wire. I was like, I'll wire you $4 million to just spend it, So that was tough. Revenue versus ad spend, you can see here, ad spend is red, revenue is green. So, ruh-roh, you might see that and be like, wait a second, the green is lower than the red. Revenue versus profit. Wait a second, where's my little troll guy? There you go. I thought you liquidated acquisition costs. Aha. So this is sales as of 6:49 a.m. on launch day. So I screenshotted on my phone. And that was the ad spend. All right, so we spent 3.67-ish million on ad spend. We also spent money on vendors and team and non-digital like direct mail and billboards, but this was readily available because it's digital, so it was 4-ish million. The reason this is important is that the bigger you are from an advertising perspective, the more omni-channel and multi-channel you are, the more you just have to take a blended approach. With the privacy policies and Apple stuff, it is continuing to become more and more difficult for attribution. And so we do know that the more we spend, the more comes back in. Now, of the 40 million or so that was unattributed, I would wager that a portion of that comes from the ad platforms. I can't prove that. I just know that when we have other portfolio companies where we spend a lot of money, like millions a month in ads, when we spend more money on ads, all the other channels go up independently. And so we have to start approaching it as a blended CAC. And so our blended return was obviously net positive. Okay, referrals. So last launch, we made the whole launch thank you page strategy around getting people to refer more people. That was for the leads campaign because it was all about getting advertising, letting more people know about it. This year, we focused more on getting people to show up, getting people to buy. So there was a different intent for the campaign because obviously it was about monetization rather than advertising. But we still had a referral strategy on the page. It was just lower. So we deprioritized the referrals, made up for it with money because we could liquidate the acquisition because of monetization. And so we created a referral program that was on the thank you page. You had to find it and then click it. So we had higher quality in terms of per referral. Like we had more referees per referrer. There you go. And so for the incentives, we had 2-tier incentives. So I'll walk you through that. And I strongly, strongly encourage you to do this. If you do any kind of referral program, any kind of affiliate program, 2-tier incentives because it's 2 different use cases. You've got the everyman and then you've got the competitors, right? So this is the everyman part. This is those of you who are like, I've got a couple of employees or I've got some friends, we're going to watch together. That's the everyman. Nothing wrong with it. On this side, it's like I'm a professional promoter. Like when we had the affiliate day, it was almost all marketers, unsurprisingly. And so we have to give people a reason to opt in. So why would you want to refer? So we gave the affiliate black book, which was all of the stuff that they could use to promote the launch. There's lots of materials and collateral that was already pre-prepared. A lot of people are just inherently interested in that. So that was guaranteed just for opting in. And then you got behind the scenes of the launch, because I had a separate email campaign that was going to affiliates telling them what was going on. Now, if you got 10 plus people to opt in through your link, you also had a variable chance, so this is not guaranteed, to win a day here in person, plus guaranteed you get the audio book, the 71-minute business tactics that are recorded separately. All right. And so we want to give everybody a chance to win something. Then we want to give the top dogs a chance to win big stuff. And so this is the affiliate strategy. So believe it or not, this is the last channel we added, and I'm so grateful we did, because obviously it was almost 20 million. It was a huge chunk of the launch. I almost didn't do it because we were running really thin on bandwidth. But the team nutted up, specifically Lewis, crushed, and just worked overtime like a crazy person to manage the affiliates. And so we ended up doing it, and it was great. And so glad we did. Now, I do think that there's a huge lift that comes from affiliate that is the invisible hand, which is when you see tons and tons of accounts posting about this thing, talking about this thing, it creates this general buzz. And I cannot quantify it, but I know it's real. And so this is kind of like organic, where like, I don't know where the attribution is, but I know it matters. And so I'm very glad we did it. It had a big effect on launch, and I think it creates this like brouhaha around the event. This is also something people don't get, is that this is your most engaged cohort. Anybody who's willing to talk about your stuff and basically risk relational equity or relational capital in order to tell people about your thing, like they are some of your most engaged audience, and they're the people that you want to like treat better than anybody, because they're like going out of their way to promote your thing. Like, what a gift. So we want to take care of those people as much as possible. As a side benefit, it also encourages affiliates to show up. If they're promoting other people to come to your thing, then they better show up, right? And so it also kind of builds in some, they have to demonstrate, like they can't invite somebody to a party and not show up. Like it'd be silly, right? So this was the reach out to last year's top affiliates. This was the actual email that we sent, and everybody who responded to that, we got on a call with, and then basically walked through what the plan is, and we supported whatever we could to help them with their promotional strategies, walk them through how they could retrofit some of the collateral so they could promote it. We had also people who just took it from the thank you page. So the top dudes we reached out to, then we had a bunch of people obviously just found it on their own. And then if they started promoting and doing well quickly, we would reach out to anyone who was like a rising star and say, hey, what are you doing? And then we try and help them out. We also had multiple immediate follow-ups. So once someone opted in, even if they didn't take the referral option, we still had 2 follow-up emails to say, are you sure you don't want to refer friends, right? And we sent that to both buyers and non-buyers. So some of you guys went through that, and I would encourage you to do it because it was 20% of the launch. And also, as a side note, it was 20% of the final number, but if you removed it, it would be a 25% lift in revenue. If you go from 80 to 100, then it's a 25% increase. So it undervalues the contribution, notwithstanding all the other kind of ancillary benefits you get from it. We sent the 2 emails. I already went over that. And then from an engagement perspective, so we did 4 things. Number 1 is we had leaderboards that were sent out. Was it daily? It was daily. So we sent leaderboards out daily, especially near the end. We had regular communications with the top dogs and emails that were going out regularly, letting them know what's going on, what's keeping them in the loop. We created the black book, which had tested ads inside of it. So we're like, hey, these are the ads that are doing best for us. This messaging is converting. You can run these ads on your own. You can post these ads on your own. You can send them to your list, whatever you want. And yeah, we did one-on-one calls with the top affiliates. This is a leaderboard. So again, reached out to last year's, incentivized everyone with a public leaderboard, prizes versus money. This is just a note from me. I prefer to give prizes than money for 2 reasons. 1, money is an absolute nightmare pain in the ass from a tax compliance perspective. It sucks. The second reason, I think it changed the vibe. People get like commission breathy, and I didn't want that around the launch. I just want people who like wanted to promote it. And I've done that both times, and I really like it. And it's just way cleaner. It's easier to sign up. You don't have to like send 1099s or whatever else. It's way better. So if you have the option, I would strongly recommend doing prizes versus money if you can come up with prizes that are meaningful to your core audience. Yeah. So for us, the top 10 affiliates got one-on-one fireside chat, free private dinner, and they got all the other prizes. We incentivize the highest performers to be rewarded with huge email blasts, running ads, doing outreach, posting on socials. The top 50, so top 10 got the dinner and a podcast. The top 50 guaranteed a VIP spot in here in Vegas, spend the day, and then we had like 3 or 4 hours of open mic for questions for just 50 people. So like there was a lot of questions that were answered. We wanted to tier the prizes toward each level of effort. So if you're 11th, I don't want you to be like, I missed it. You know what I mean? Like I want people who really promoted to make sure they still get a great experience, and we try to make sure that happened. So everybody got that day guaranteed. And then anybody, so once you're not in the top 50, now you're like, you got over 10. And so you still had a shot at coming out. You still got recordings of the day. You still got the unreleased audiobook for the 10 business tactics. So like each of these little bullets is like a huge, it's time. And so you're like, man, how did the 20 million happen? It's like each of these things was a whole, like, oh yeah, I casually wrote an audiobook. You know what I mean? Like that was work. I casually ran, another event and then had 10 podcasts and did the dinner and did the breakfast and did, hours and hours of Q&A. Like I did those because I know how important affiliates are, and I want to make sure that they feel, supported and loved. All right. So that is how we built it. Sorry, Jesus. That is how we advertise it. Are you guys good? Are you guys rocking and rolling? That was just part one. I was actually worried. I swear. I told my team, I was like, I don't know if this is going to go too fast. Okay, great. So that is how we advertised it. Here's how we built it. Part two. This is the offer. So this is what we had to solve for. And I'm going to focus more on the AI because the books, you write books, and I describing how to write books I think would be boring for some of you. So I want to focus on the tech side because I think that was more interesting and more compelling, and had a greater impact. So our goal has been to build the next generation of AI practices. And so this means that we need to put the old model of advisory practice, the McKinseys, the BCGs, the Gardners, et cetera, out of business. We have to put that model out of business. And so part of that is creating a data layer that builds a product that can eventually replace that model. And so you might have seen this news from, this is in, I guess, June or May, whatever. Y Combinator posted this stuff where they said they want full stack AI companies. And so you can see the headline on the bottom right. It said, if you build a great AI accountant, why sell it to legacy accountants? So most people come at AI from a SaaS perspective, saying, hey, we're going to build this tool, and then we're going to license this tool to all these people, and then they're going to use it, and they'll be more efficient. But the thing is that if you have limitless scale, not margin, which is totally different with AI, side note, but if you have huge, breathtaking amounts of scale with AI, then the idea is, well, then just do it and compete head-to-head with your superior model. And so that's functionally what we're trying to do at acquisition.com, and is a core product that we are consistently building out. And so we'll cover 4 things as it comes to building the product. So number 1 is the most valuable thing for a business, like how I was thinking about how can I make this offer so compelling. Number 2, what made it very hard. Number 3, how we built the AI to translate that information into knowledge. And then 4, how to transform knowledge into outcomes. And I see this as relevant and important since probably, I said, can we do a poll? Luke the Duke? Okay. Can I get a poll that says, I am interested in, let's say, AI interested, AI disinterested. Just do those 2 as the options. I'm curious for you guys if you see that you are AI interested in terms of enhancing it in your business versus not, because I think you should be, but I don't want to skew the results. But I think this is important for a lot of you guys because it'd be like, hey, the internet's coming out, we should talk about it. Oh, Jesus. Okay, yeah. So we have some AI interested. Fantastic. All right, so let's talk about the first thing. How to make this more valuable for business. So when we were building the offer in total, and then obviously subsequently the AI, we asked ourselves, like, what is the single most valuable thing that you can give a business, right? Besides literally giving someone money, the most valuable thing a business can have is what I would consider the best next step. right? And so here's why. And so because at its most basic level, the difference between where you are and wherever you want to be is the value of the best next step. And so here's just fun mental math for everybody. So describe to yourself, you don't need to put it in the chat, but describe an achievable goal or achievable outcome that you think you can do 12 months from now. So it is October of 25. So let's think October of 26. Think about a goal that you think you can achieve 12 months from now, right? Just one thing. If this one thing happened, it would materially change the business. And you believe you could do it. Achievable, not like, you create the next Microsoft. Probably not going to happen, right? Achievable goal, 12 months. So then the follow-up question is, and imagine that in your mind, all right? If only that one thing were true, how much would it add to your business? Think about this for a second. Again, we're talking about how do you create the most valuable offer of all time. What would it add to the business? So the idea is then, once we have this value that you have in your head, whatever that number is, the value of the steps to get there, the best next step, is proportional to the value of that thing. If that big outcome is really big, the value of those steps or that best next step is significantly higher. And so it's the same reason that if you went back in time to help yourself out, you could probably do it in about a third the time. And here's my proof. Because you probably know what steps to skip and which ones mattered most, right? So here's the real world scenario. Who here, can I just get a hand in the chat, one of these guys? Who here is on their second business and beyond? Can I see the results of the AI one, by the way? I can't see the actual score. Hand if you're on your second business and beyond. Oh, geez. Okay, almost all of you guys are interested. Yeah, that's actually crazy high. I didn't expect it to be that high. Okay, so we have hands. Okay, many of you are on your second business or more. Watch this. This is going to be wild, okay? Now, who here, while you have your hands raised, who's on their second business, did grow this second business faster than your first one? So you're on your second. Who here grew their second faster than their first? Right? Of course. And the reason is because you already knew what to do. It's why when you play a video game you can beat it at 1/10 the time. Right? You already know where all the trapdoors are, the weapons are, the upgrades and the boosters are hidden. And you don't waste time on anything that doesn't move you forward. Which makes knowing the best next step or what to do next one of the most valuable business assets a business can have. Again, we're thinking how can you build the most valuable offer possible? And so what happens is when you have that, it turns your growth into a predictable process like playing a video game. To be clear, not easy, playing video games aren't, but predictable. And now if that's true, and it is so valuable, then why is it so rare and why do so few people know about it? Right? Why do so few people stay stuck? Why do so few people not know what the best next step is? And so I said we cover 4 things. The first is the framework for thinking, how do I make the most valuable offer of all time, right? The second is, okay, if that valuable next step of knowing exactly what to do to bridge the gap is that value, then what makes it so hard to deliver to so many people at scale? The answer is, it's hard, and it's hard for one reason: context. You need tremendous context on the business, tremendous context on the entrepreneur, and tremendous context on the environment and or the conditions. And so think about it like this. Think about like a jockey, a horse, and the other horses in the race. If you're going to give advice, it's going to depend on all 3 of those variables, right? Or differently, the type of car, the type of driver, the weather conditions, or it's an endurance race or a sprint race. All those things matter on what the best next step is to optimize for the goal, right? And so the best next step for the jockey or the driver or the entrepreneur takes context into account to come up or to figure out the best way to win the race or achieve the goal. And then reverses it into the step they need to take now, which is the best next step. And to give context to how the AI works, the product, at a deeper level, since you guys are, it's crazy that 98% of you are, let me see if I got this. Okay, yes. So this is a short segment I did with Amjad, the founder of Replit, which is a $3 billion AI company as of right now, around how AI actually learns. So I think it's like 3 minutes. I go really in depth on it, and I think you will just enjoy it. So roll. Let's see if this works.
Let's get into AI a little bit. Not many people remember, but you were one of the first people to key in on ChatGPT as a tool for business.
Yeah.
And I remember some of your early videos.
It was like almost 3 years ago. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was like a couple of weeks after ChatGPT was
Yeah.
launched, right? Was it November 22 or something like that?
December, yeah.
December 22. I always watch your world and I watch Silicon Valley world and I see like what is hopping over.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is going to be huge. uh, what sparked the interest for ChatGPT? What vision did it create for you?
What I really enjoy a lot is studying learning and behavior. And you can hear it through all my definitions and my business books. Like that's the through line that marries everything. Artificial intelligence learns almost exactly the same way that humans do through reinforcement training. And so you do a thing and you get an outcome, yay or nay. And I believe at the most foundational level, when you ask the question, like, why are you so driven, or why are founders so driven? We have gone through some reinforcement training, which we may have been aware or not aware of, that reinforced this set of behaviors that when, stacked together. So you see a skill as a behavior chain of multiple adaptive skills that are put in sequence to create an outcome that's maybe, ideal, or that adaptive chain becomes a more complex set of behaviors that becomes a skill. AI basically learns the same way humans do. And so if it learns the same way humans do, then it will be able to do what humans do.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So everyone who feels like, AI is not as smart as humans, it's like, well, because we've had a learning advantage.
Yes.
Because we take 10,000 inputs a day or whatever the number is.
100%.
If we take all of our senses times, hours and whatever we can take in, as soon as we have robo babies, and I say that not in a weird way, but like where it can experiment and touch and taste and do all that stuff in the world, I think the reinforcement loops will happen so quickly. And the other part of it that will happen is that it doesn't forget. And I think that's the crazy part. So we've obviously trained AI for different functions within our business and business use cases. And one of the things that was astonishing to me is that we were trying to train an SDR, so a sales development rep who would, do outreach or do follow up. And what was really interesting to me was that it would make a mistake, and I would, we'd be like, hey, do this next time. And every time it would do that. And I was like, man, I've trained a lot of salespeople, like scary in a cool way of just how quick it can learn. And it just doesn't make a mistake after that. Obviously there's hallucinations, but in terms of following the directions, it would follow them. It's funny because there's a lot of like really cute isms in Silicon Valley, like, being a master is something that like some skills cannot be taught, only learned. Like there are these very cute like rhetorical devices, but they're just not, they'd make no sense.
Yeah.
like if you learned it, you learned it, which means someone could teach it. It's just not structured.
Right.
And we didn't know how we taught it because there's multiple factors. But like if you control the conditions, you can control the outcome. At least that's my viewpoint of the world. It just means that there's more complex environments in order to learn. I think I've just taken a lot of interest in that because, the obvious of like ChatGPT enters Optimus or, Grok enters Optimus in the real world. It's like, oh, okay. Well, it can interact with all the tools that we've already made around the world to interact with as humans, and then never make a mistake after that. And then that just gets into lots of questions around existence and all that kind of stuff, which I enjoy.
I think you're spot on. Perhaps more than you know. Even a lot of AI engineers would not understand what you just said, and even some AI researchers.
So with that, I wanted to obviously show that clip because it shows a little bit more context in terms of how AI is trained and how it actually works. And so given this, who here has either heard or said they want to build an AI-enabled, AI-enhanced, AI-first, or AI-assisted business? Right? I saw a bunch of you guys already raise your hands. I'm going to assume plenty of you guys have. And so keep your hands hypothetically raised, at least in your head. Who here would then say that you have a clear data layer on top of your business that collects inputs and outputs? Right. So most of you, it's I don't think many of you are yeses on this one. In terms of how would I collect clear data that's structured so that I could train an agent in a way that could repeat what I'm doing. And so in service of that, we started putting in tremendous volumes of work towards capturing that context. So remember I said like there's something that makes it difficult to give this most valuable thing, which is the lack of context on the entrepreneur, on the environment, and on the business, right? And so 2 years to date, creating data sets with clear inputs and outputs for the specific segment of people that we serve at acquisition, which is small business owners, ranging from $500,000 to $50 million a year. We wanted context around the entrepreneur, around the business, and again around the landscape, the conditions, social media, ads, outreach, the economy at the time, and context around the operational constraints for the entrepreneurs with the single desired outcome: to give actionable advice that maximizes the likelihood of the business owner achieving their goal. This was the idea behind the offer. If we could simply translate that the thing that you want has certain steps to take. You having those steps, the correct steps and the correct sequence for your specific context will be the most valuable thing you could give. And so for real world relevance, to allow whatever weird mix of pattern recognition that I've had from helping a lot of businesses to be translated into something that could actually help all businesses. Not as well as me, and this is the key point, but better. Because it remembers every tactic, every on-the-fly solution, every insight to come up with the maximally efficient, best next step. And so, for example, if I were to consult with a home service business or whatever your business is, right, the first thing I'm going to do is look at other home service businesses that I've worked with, and I'd look at the problems that came up with when I was talking to them. And then I would look at the solutions that I presented for each of those businesses, and I would see if there are similarities, and there usually are. And then I'm going to probably start there as a baseline. And so AI does this perfectly every time, and it can keep it all in its head, readily available on demand. And so how could we make sure it actually worked? In other words, how do we know that it could translate data sets into outcomes, right? That's a big leap. And so I said we'd cover 4 things. I said, what, the most valuable thing is for a business, the best next step. What makes it hard is that it lacks context. The third thing is, okay, if you give that data, how do you translate that thing into usable knowledge? So there's 2 elements to knowing that something translates data into knowledge, right? Metrics and use cases, so real world. All right, so this is since the launch. This is the AI usage metrics. All right, so you can see active messages per user per day. All right, so first, this shows, honestly, it's better than I expected, but we obviously had a surge at the beginning, right? So this is the product. This is the thing that we built. So we had a big surge, obviously, at the launch. You can see the dates at the bottom. But then you see something that's very, very valuable, which is a flat curve, meaning that the number of people who are using it and messages per day stays flat, which means that people just consistently keep using it. Now, probably a very small percentage of you guys are in the SaaS world, but if you see a flat line like this, most of you guys know what that means, which is you have user retention, you have stickiness. That is a valuable product, very exciting. And so, like I said, most people can't really interpret this, but the only reason people use something adjacent to their business on a regular basis is because it provides regular value. And if it provides regular value, then it's a good proxy for it translating in the data into usable knowledge. People aren't just going through it to not use it. And so the first element is the metrics, for usage being probably the biggest one. Like if people consume it, they will like it, right? Or they consume it because they like it. There we go. And so let me show you some of the real use cases that we had to train for to put together to actually make this work for everybody. And so the use case is if it's sticky, but only for one cohort. So we could have that flat line, but if only for a very small segment, that's good, but not great. Because the narrower the use case that is sticky, the fewer people who can ultimately use it. And so what are people actually using the AI for? Again, this is data post-launch that I didn't have prior. Can it do more than one task? So the answer is these are the common uses that people are currently doing on the AI. And so I asked the AI to summarize the use cases it's used for most frequently. So I actually asked our AI to do this. And so it said generating tactical marketing and sales assets. So for example, build me a set or script using the best tactics Alex saves for paying clients, right? Or designing and pressure testing core offers. So for example, what pricing tier should I have for consumers who buy dog products? Or how can I make my offer into a Grand Slam offer? Optimizing and automating sales funnels. So break down my sales process, find holes, give me a step-by-step breakdown on how to improve my conversion rates. And these should make sense given 70% of businesses consider themselves demand constrained, as in they could handle more business. So the next step is typically, the best next step, is typically something related to them getting more business. That would make sense. But then I asked the AI to pull actual conversations and jobs that it's already done. So of course I whitewashed these because these are like some of y'all's answers. And so these were the actual insights that it created. This was generated from all of the things that you guys have used it for. So the first use case was on-demand asset generator. So the jobs to be done was instantly producing execution-ready marketing and sales collateral, removing the bottleneck of what to say, and replacing the need for slow and expensive creating. This is the actual AI's language right now. So this was observed in B2B, healthcare, SaaS, legal, local, mental health clinics, remodeling, e-commerce, coaching, and consulting. So the examples from the data. A B2B corporate wellness firm generated a full cold call script, objection handling guide, voicemail, and SMS follow-up. A mental health clinic created SMS and voicemail scripts to increase callback rates from warm ad leads. An investment research newsletter drafted a customer survey to collect quantified testimonials for marketing. A B2B agency for pharma brands created a high-stakes proposal email for a major client campaign. So that's the first kind of use case that people are using it for. And the reason, again, that I'm thinking about this is like, how do we build this? It's like you have to build something that's incredibly valuable, and it can't just be incredibly valuable for one slice. Now, to be clear, if you're in a niche, then yes, by all means do that. But if you have to cater to everybody, then you have to think, how can I prove out this thing in a diverse set of use cases that are still extremely valuable for the N equals 1? So use case 2 was offer and pricing. So the job to be done was ACQAI was an expert strategist, a co-pilot, to structure and refine core business offers, pricing, one of the strongest levers on profit, and guarantees to increase conversion and profitability. And so this was observed in, again, local businesses. So this is real examples: pool maintenance, landscaping, remodeling, B2B SaaS, e-commerce, coaching, consulting. So this is from y'all. So residential remodeling contractor used to build a job pricing model to protect 37% gross margin against the client's budget cap. Commercial pool service designed a new irresistible offer with a guarantee and SLA, so service level agreements, for their website to attract property managers. Real estate photography business created tiered pricing structures to incentivize high volume agent partnership while maintaining 70% gross margins, or net margin, excuse me. A coaching business for faith forward founders designed a full service ladder from a workshop to a Grand Slam offer, sprint to a quarterly retainer. So that was the second kind of like types of stuff. So the first is all about like assets and sales and marketing stuff, collateral. The second is offer and pricing. So this is more strategy. And the third is basically pure CRO. So funnel and systems optimizer. So diagnosing, mapping, and prescribing fixes for the entire sales and marketing funnels to improve conversion rates and automate it. So this was observed in healthcare clinics, so med spas, men's health, coaching, consulting, B2B SaaS, done for you agencies. So examples from the data. So men's health clinic with large YouTube following built a lead magnet to setter call workflow to improve appointment booking rates. A systems implementation agency created a detailed SOP for their BAM-FAM meeting prep process across these three products: ClickUp, GHL, and Google Drive. A marketing agency for coaches analyzed a webinar script drop-off points and then restructured it to move the pitch earlier and interweave proof points. And a residential remodeling contractor designed a go-high level workflow to automate lead intake, deal creation, and speed of lead follow-up from a website from submissions. Right? And so that is how we take both the metrics angle of how do you know that the product is actually getting usage or is good, to make sure that you've had the conviction to promote it. One is you have the metrics that show that. And the second was the actual real use cases that people like in the real world are using. And so then number 4, how do you translate that into knowledge? Sorry, those knowledge into outcomes. Again, I relate this because many of you guys are AI interested. And if you want to build a product that has AI in it or enabled in it, you need to have a data layer so that you can then create these inferences so that you can get these outcomes. And so this was, these are the kind of the real world impacts. So this is Jesse Dow. He joined the Scale Advisory. So the AI is fire. I would have paid $24,000 for that alone. Used it to reposition offers and pricing immediately, seeing massive results. Again, this isn't me saying that this would happen for you. It wasn't even available except for anything for the people who were live at the launch. But I'm just showing you this so that you can see how you go from concept all the way to banger idea that actually works. So this is Jason. He said, Alex AI is my go-to for everything business related. Chris Williams said, ACQAI made me XXX in 4 hours. It's made me, I'm spending $18,000 to be this group, and I made, well, I won't make any claims there. Vishal, pleasantly surprised with it. I must say I was pleasantly surprised how good it was. Before asking it anything, I asked what all information needs about my business to serve me better. Then I used GPT, which already had a lot of knowledge about the company, to draft a 3 to 4 page summary about everything: ICP, deal size, MRR, government contracts, etc. I fed it all into ACQAI and was able to draft an excellent offer for me. It was surprised at the price it quoted, way more than I would have, but I understand its reasoning. Right? Here's Daniel. Dude, I know you're probably asleep after that effort, but the AI assistant is off its head, so good. Connor Kurtz just wanted to say, my wife and I ran XX over the weekend after hosting a live launch. Couldn't have done it without the book content in ACQ AI. Maritza, this is so good. Love that we have Alex AI to help us do the truly uncomfortable. I've tried it. It's a great resource for cutting through the BS. Gave me specific tasks in order and even gave me a deadline. Chris, I started to view the AI like a mini Hormozi sitting in the corner of my desk. Hey, Alex, how can we improve this thing? It's awesome. I don't feel like I'm taking up too much of its time. This is Abram. So I'm giving you these so you can see the examples of like real. ACQI is so freaking cool. It actually spits out super helpful and practical advice too. Jacob, having spent time building my own Alex AI, I can say with confidence this is on an entirely different level. The sheer depth of its capabilities is beyond anything I imagined. A huge thank you to the team for creating an incredible tool. I couldn't agree more with Thad Wells. The AI is worth the dollars alone. Loving it so far, super helpful. I had breakfast with Alex AI this morning. It was amazing. Here's what Alex changed. He gave me a higher tier offer. What it included, recommended the core offer be a 12-month contract with commitment, no tire kickers, and then give a bunch more recommendations exactly what to do. The AI agent is outstanding. Delighted. It's amazing. Very good. Great expectations. Lots of things that it did. I could probably keep going here. You get the idea. So the reason the business owners prefer it is because we made 5 changes, and I'm bringing this up because whoever your avatar is, you have to build something that is for them, right? Not some like BS GPT like thing. Like if you actually, like we have a full dev team that's half the size of school's dev team at ACQ. We've been building this for 2 years. And I bring this up because great products take time. And so there's 5 main changes that we made to cater to business owners versus regular people. And so we trained our AI to communicate how I've learned is the most effective for business owners. So number 1 is context. So it has permanent and growing context layer that isn't inferred. It's added plus inferred. So it has both, right? So if you always feel like you have to like keep uploading stuff and say, hey, remember this is what I'm talking about, like all of that is permanent, a layer on top of all answers, and all answers are given within that growing context that is both inferred from what you say plus the manual and hard-coded layer. The second is that it disagrees. Like if think about it like this, if something always agrees with you, how much do you really trust its advice? Think about that for a second. Basically, every, I would say, mass available product that's out there, they seek agreement. And so let's literally code it into it. It seeks agreement and wants you to like it. And as a result, it tells you things that you want to hear rather than what is probably likely to be correct. And so we have geared this all towards what I would tell somebody, which means it says no if it thinks it's a dumb idea. It's fluff free, so I don't know about you guys, but I hate the like paragraphs of answers for like a simple yes, no. We eliminated a lot of that fluff. The next thing is questions before answer. So said differently. If you were to call me up and say, hey, Alex, what should I do with my business? My first thing back to you would not be an answer. It would be, tell me about the business. Give me the size. Give me more context. And if I have that, then I can actually give you a much better answer. Now, assume it already has context. It'll still ask even more questions, which is why the quality of the answer is so high. And then finally, the steps themselves are action steps. So answers only in things that people can do. So I talk about like all my books are always written purely from the perspective of what can you do about it? And so as a result, because it's purely trained on SMBs and has context to the business, it will always be entirely different from the GPT. So if you were to like take the same prompt, put them in, it'd be an entirely different experience. And so fundamentally, this is the differentiator. This is what Amjad and I were talking about on that podcast is like, what is the thing that you can create that is unique and different in terms of training that allows you to have a superior outcome? And so you will get outputs anywhere. Like it's kind of like you could get free advice, business advice from your hairdresser. Getting an output does not make it high quality, right? What we're trying to win on is the narrow use case for SMBs rather than have something that's trained on everything from therapy to relationships to erotica, right? We're trying to find something that like in the specific use case of tons of volume within this very narrow context of normal businesses, how can you maximize the likelihood that we get best next steps that have the highest likelihood impact of people hitting their goal? And so obviously I give you all those kind of like screenshots to be like it worked in the real world. But what about this drop off, right? So this is something that I'm always paying attention to, which is like, if you have a product, you want to make sure that as many people as possible use it. So I'm telling you how we actually built this, right? And so the thinking idea is that obviously we didn't get full adoption from everyone. No product does. Now that flat curve is still a really good indication though, that people are consistently using this on a regular basis. But I see that line there, the difference between those two lines, as a skilled efficiency. So any new technology has an adoption curve, and just like the internet, some people use it well, other people use the internet mediocrely, and some people still use fax machines, right? And so it's not that the internet doesn't work, it's just that the difference between two users of the internet is skill. And so I would like to show you how to use it to grow your business so it can consistently give you the best next step to scaling, getting you from where you are to where you want to go. And this is the context through which we built this thing. right? And so if any of you are here and you're not using AI as much as you should, and you know you should, you likely are falling behind. Remember, like, he's referencing something that I did like 2.5 years ago. Like, the world is moving. And so I said, like, how did we build this thing? First is we started with what is the most valuable version of a product, which for the context of what we do in advisory practice, it had to be the best next step. Because if we can give someone the best next step, then that will get them where they want to go. Then, why doesn't everyone do that? Because it's incredibly hard, because you need to have context. And so in order to have context, we had to do 2 years of consulting work, me plus the team, $60+ million of consulting, where we track clear inputs and outputs so we could train an AI the way I explained on the podcast with Amjad. So we had reinforcement cycles that got the closest approximation of very high level consulting, but available to many more people. And so then from there, it's like, how do you know it actually works? How do you know it's turning that data into knowledge? Well, we have the metrics, right? And we have the use cases. So the metrics show that the usage is flat, obviously after the initial adoption curve, but then in flat line after that. Basically, once someone is skilled enough, they continue to use it, which is amazing. And then you have, what are people using it for? Primarily creating assets, strategy around pricing and offer. And then finally, they're using it on kind of optimizations for sales motions, which makes sense if those are the top 3 use cases, given most businesses are demand constrained. And then finally, it's like, okay, how does that translate into the real world, right? And I give you a bunch of small, just little tidbits of people. Again, your results will vary. None of those were income claims, but everyone results, I literally should. People, results vary. How does that translate into the real world? And so some of you guys missed the AI. And so I would like to show everyone here how to use ACQ AI, because I think it is the most valuable thing that you can have, which is the best next step for your business. And so if you missed it, I would like you to have the ability to buy it. So I will make it available for purchase for 36 hours only. The clock starts now if you want it. You can go to go.acq.com. It's $3,000 one time, and then it's $299 a month. You can cancel whenever you want. I'm very confident that you will like it. We've put a lot of resources into it, and we're continuing to. And this is a big point. Like, ACQ AI will be a core engine of the value creation of acquisition.com. My entire point is to compete at the highest levels by training, doing the work that other people won't do, and doing it in such a way that we capture that data so that an entire slice of the economy, like many business owners do not capture the correct data. We have gone through the painstaking effort of actually capturing that data, many times having to do that in person, over the phone, over Zoom, manually collecting the stuff so that we could train this to help many, many businesses. And obviously, once you get it, you'll have access to it instantly. So some of you guys, some of those examples that I gave, you could use like right now. And to be clear, AI, the reason there is a subscription on the back is that it's not like software. It has an actual hard cost. Like as usage increases, software doesn't really increase very much as more people use it. AI does, right? And you've probably heard about some of this with like the power usage and the power grid and things like that. That's because AI actually has hard costs. And this is also introductory pricing, so you guys will get that benefit just for acting now. I'm just opening up another cohort so I can get even more user metrics of like, how can we make this thing even sexier? Because we're going to continue to keep dropping more and more things, more updates as we continue to train it. And so if you've ever wanted everything I've ever done consulting-wise available and customized to your needs with complete context in real time, you can go to go.acq.com. Now, to show you how real this is in terms of like where AI is right now, this is actually a clip from our affiliate day. With Tyler, who's an L3 client. So he's somebody who actually bought $135,000 a day with me, and this was the real thing. Pretty wild.
I'm a bit shocked that nobody's brought up your bot yet today, your AI. Just quick shout out. It's the best business product I've ever interacted with by
Do you see the interview with Amjad?
Was that
Replit
the
CEO?
I just started watching that the other day.
You can see what we actually put into it there.
Awesome. I'm going to check that out. This might sound weird, but like I was really looking forward to this interview from like a tactics perspective. And now it felt completely irrelevant once I started to use the bot.
Yeah.
So, anyone who wishes they're up here asking you questions, if you have access to the bot, like, you should be abusing it. Like, it is amazing.
Thanks,
like, truly. Does it feel weird to have created an intelligence that more or less replicates what you do? Like, I mean, I imagine it reduced your key man risk relatively significantly. just because I would hope your team prompts it. I hope your portfolio companies prompt it. I mean, I prompted it on our biggest problem for the last 18 months, and I'm like, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly the metrics. I'm like,
you don't need me anymore.
I don't need you, dude.
So I'll answer the question in the chat that I think a couple people asked. You'll see in a second. But for everybody who donated books at the launch, I have some special things. For one, you guys aren't paying a subscription at all. You got that. So if you would like to start paying a subscription, you're welcome to. Most of you probably don't want that. And you guys also got a bunch of other stuff, and there's some other things that I'm going to give you in a moment. So that being said, if you would like to hire me, and all the consultations that my team did on $60+ million of consulting for $3,000 one time and then $299 a month, which is less the cost of 2 days of minimum wage labor per month, you can go to go.acq.com. And this time, to shoot for 100% adoption, to help everybody out, for anyone who grabs the AI, I'm going to do a separate workshop on how to use our AI as a business owner. Okay? So this will be a virtual implementation workshop, just kind of pure on execution. And so to be clear, not all outputs are created equally. And so any model can give you words, right? Like it's very easy. You can get words anywhere. The question is, how much of a difference does better make in your business? Said differently, if you had the best salesperson versus a mediocre salesperson, how big of a difference is that? Huge. The same thing applies to copy, offer, pricing, etc. Right? And so these are just a few of the highlights that we'll cover at the AI workshop. And the main point here is that I want to cover this deficiency, right? This gap here. How can I get every person to use it, to keep using it because it's providing value, right? So number one, we're going to go through the scriptwriter and copy writer, since that is probably the number one use case that people are using it for right now, using all of the stuff that we teach internally that we don't have publicly, because that's what it's also trained on, to make things that convert significantly higher. The second is the offer architect, right? So how, like I talked about some of the bonuses, like some of you guys have seen the Cash Cows episodes when we walk through offer creation. Well, imagine thousands of those conversations already documented with the right results already done. So we'll walk you through how to maximize that and tweak all the angles of your offer to increase take rates and increase prices by association. The third is the kind of funnel analyst. Whatever your sales motion is, there are tiny tweaks that other people have already figured out in your space or industry that you get 10% here, 15% here, 20% here. Those things add up so quickly, and they are permanent increases in the business when you make the changes. And so those are the three kind of highest use cases, highest output things. And I want to make sure that I can show you exactly how to use the tools like a pro, rather than someone who just uses it to summarize documents and research stuff. There's also going to be a fourth thing, which will be a little surprise, which is just my personal highest return use case of how I use it. Well, I don't know. Maybe the internet's not working, but there we go. See if that's working. Okay, so think of this as a kind of a one-day crash course, like an 80-20 with a single outcome, is that you actually use it to grow your business rather than use it as a substitute, right? And so the goal is that you actually use it to grow your business and actually be an AI-first business. And so the issue with AI, which many of you guys have probably already encountered, is that you're busy, right? Non-owners will always have the upper hand with new technology because they don't have a full business to run, while also needing to learn this first, right? So we're running our entire businesses and then also expected on top of that to learn the new tech, whereas somebody who's not a business owner is like, oh, I'll take my extra time and just learn this thing, right? And so the goal here is to be as efficient as humanly possible so you can get the outcome in one sitting. So you have every kind of the things you need that will drive the highest output usage that will take you from kind of falling behind to at least to par and maybe ahead, all right? And so you'll have the AI and you'll have the AI virtual workshop. And so also, for anyone who's curious, anyone who donated 200 books or more is invited, and it's all free for you guys, all right? So it's my way of saying thank you. So the AI training is free for you guys. That's my gift to you. You guys are good. So thank you. That should hopefully more than make up for it, beyond the fact that you also got all the other stuff, plus you also don't have a subscription. So thank you. Thank you. There you go. More thank yous. And so I'll be going through different use cases on how to prompt it for your business. And like I said, you can cancel anytime if you so choose to. All right. There's no commitment. So if you don't think the tool's good, then stop paying for it. All right, very simple. So like I said, if you missed it last time, I got like a gazillion messages. You have 36 hours to get in before I close it again, and that's because I want to closely monitor this cohort with the full onboarding process that we can put inside of it, so that I can try to get everybody that top line, so that you can be, no one's going to be AI native, but like AI proficient, right? If we can just get you so that it is regularly providing value, for it to make up that, $300 a month in terms of like, how do we get, higher open rates on the email? How do we get better response rates? How do we get, the funnel flow? Like there's so many ways for it to do it that like all I have to do is just show you how to use it, and then it's good. And so again, the cutoff's tomorrow at midnight Pacific. Okay. And I'm doing it this way so we can keep close monitor on the cohorts and make the best product possible. So while you guys check out, anyone who has used the AI, I would love it if you guys let people know your experience in the chat. That would be great. That'd be swell. So you can go there, go.acq.com, you can grab it. But if you did use it, I should drop exclusive books. I know, my God. Website isn't opening except I use VPN. Why? You're from Nigeria. I have no idea. Website is not working. Good to know. Love the AI. Thank you. AI is a good time. Great. Yeah, so the AI chat is amazing. Thank you, Mavix. I appreciate it. Golden, worth every dollar. Absolutely amazing. Best AI I've used. And I've used many. ACQ is like having Alex Business Genius and Real Talk. Take the training and use it. Also, the AI is absolutely goated. Yeah, we spent a long time on this. Like, I spent 2 years of my life trying to build this thing because we said we had the mission to make real business education accessible for everyone. And so part of doing that is making the investments years ago in documenting each of the consultations that we did, which is completely unscalable, so that we could create something that truly was. And fortunately, I have access to some of the best AI minds out there in terms of how to do this actually, which everyone who's actually used it can tell you the difference. Like many people, like this is by no means like don't use Claude, don't use GPT. They're all don't use Grok, whatever. They're great products. They are generalist products. They are products that are intended from, like I said, erotica to therapy to whatever, email consolidation, right? This is specific for SMBs and specific for the use cases that the majority of SMBs deal with. So like the amount of training that it has is proportional to the likelihood that you suffer from the same problem that other business owners do. And so the majority of what it's trained on, so 70% on, is demand-related stuff, because that is what the majority of problems that business owners struggle with. And so it is very good at writing copy. It is very good at coming with lead magnets. It's very good at writing offers, very good at figuring out pricing, because if it's chatting with 100 plumbers, it knows the pricing between these two different areas. And it knows that this one is lower. And if it can see that this one makes way more money than this one, then it's going to learn that these are probably ideal or superior pricing strategies. And this is the kind of unique data that we've trained this on. And so this is a core product of acquisition.com. And that's why I was very excited to give it to everybody who just chose to donate books. Obviously, everybody today, you're not going to get any of those pieces or the hard pieces. You do have a subscription that's associated with it. And that's just to be fair to the people who donated. And obviously, those who donated, you also get the AI training for free. Again, as my way of saying thank you. But I think this is a truly exceptional product. So that's that. Okay. So you can go to go.acq.com if you want it. It's up for 36 hours. I said there's 3 things for the launch. So I said how we advertised it, how we built it, and how we sold it. Okay. So now, if you guys are good with it, I will transition to the third part of this, which is how we actually sold it. So the play-by-play of the highest grossing webinar, to my knowledge, of all time. So this was the webinar creation process. Number 1, I used our AI to write the persuasive elements. Number 2, turn those into bullets. Number 3, determined my talking pace of WPM, or words per minute. Number 4, I determined when the CTAs would be for the free stack and the donation stack. So I basically had to do 2 webinars back to back. So I had to figure out where each of the CTAs was going to be. Then I figured out the word count to reverse engineer the timing. So this has to drop at 47. This has to drop by 52. And so then it's like I speak at 185 words per minute. And so if that's my talking pace, then if I say this many words, I will drop the CTA at those time marks so that I can maximize the likelihood that people who are present can take action, right? And so step 6, wrote out every word for word for the webinar within word count. I put those words on the slides after writing the whole thing out word for word. Then I added visual proof to every slide. Then I practiced it every day for a month. And then I practiced 2 to 3 times a day with prop movement. So some of you guys, I mean, obviously, if those of you were at the launch, I had all these props that I had to move around and like place while I was talking. So it's kind of like singing and playing the guitar at the same time. Like I had to click with one hand, hold the stuff, and talk while trying to look at the camera. And that just took practice. And so if it seemed smooth, it wasn't smooth the first time, and it got smooth by like the 20th time. And the end result was 1,700 slides with every word scripted. And so this was the strategy. And so we begin with stakes right off the bat, and this is super high level. I'm going to go really tactical into the actual presentation. But we started with stakes to make sure people want to pay attention. We sorted out so people could label and say, this versus this. Added more stakes, created more labels to make sure that someone says, this is for me, which was both sales orientation and industry. And then we created the whole meta concept through demonstration, right? The offers book was a meta concept for offers, leads was a meta concept for advertising, monetization was a meta concept for money models, meta concept for monetization, okay? So then the audience was, for 35%, was non-business owners. So this was the structure of the first pitch, right? Freebie seekers / non-business owners. So the core belief is if a business has more cash flow, it can get whatever else it needs to scale. So every webinar, in my opinion, has to have like one core argument. And so the core argument was, if you had more cash flow, you could use that cash flow to get whatever you need to scale. That was the core belief. Now, the webinar core belief, the second webinar, excuse me, core belief with MetaProof, bonus stack, price drop to free, access to school, at a delay. And I'll explain all the components of the CTAs here because it was incredibly nuanced to make sure that everybody went to the right place at the right time, that it didn't cannibalize, like one offer didn't cannibalize the other. I'll show you everything. Now the second webinar was more like this, which is reason why, new information reveal / reframe, pattern interrupt. So when I took off my hat, that was the pattern interrupt. And then we began the second webinar. So this webinar was obviously for business owners, which I called out. The core belief is my business is limited by one constraint. If I remove that constraint, my business will scale. That was the core belief of the second webinar. So second webinar had, as fast as possible, retain momentum. Because remember, there's this moment of the free stack. I'm getting all this stuff for free. And then I have to go from there to making an offer with a call to action within like 6 minutes. So I had to manage that transition from it's all free to donate 200 books in 6 minutes of words, and manage the emotions of that whole thing. And I'll walk it through the whole thing in slow motion, but this is the big picture. So we retained momentum, revealed the price, which is antithetical to how most of these types of things work. Again, this is a little bit different when it's like we did some new stuff. Revealed the price first, then made a call to action, which was like, hey, if you want to go get it, go get it. Scarcity stack. Then we had a bonus price justification. That was the bonuses we added on. And then we had a second price drop with the AI, and then something called an objection arc, which I'll explain. And then we had a final urgency stack with the black book, all right? So, and then from there on, like when I had all the speakers that came up, all of that functioned as meta proof. So what that means is if you're ever gonna have an event or something, the objective of someone speaking, right? If you think about it from a business context, should be to maximize the likelihood of two things. That people buy that day or that people buy later. And so that balance is, value, and ideally through declarative knowledge, meaning you teach people about how stuff works. And so for us, when we have those table-side chats with each of the friends that I have that are all ballers, the idea was to demonstrate how these ideas clearly work. And then because these guys are rich, they used the ideas in this book, knowingly or unknowingly. And so by doing that, I was able to tie or associate or brand my products with their success. That was the idea. This is me. I'm not holding anything back. This is how it worked. So, proof. Jay Steele, you wish you were rich. Well, wishing ain't going to get it for you, man. Now, that's all great, but what if I give you a play-by-play? Would that be cool? This is the number one rated thing that I did at school is I did a play-by-play of explaining how the VSL worked that we spent millions and millions of dollars a month on to drive the growth of school through the roof. And I explained frame by frame exactly what I did. Would you guys like that? Yeses would be appropriate if this is the time to do it. I think I have like a 5-second delay. Okay, great. Yes. All right, I think you guys are going to like this. I'll just put it out there. And for those of you who are asking about the AI, it's just go.acq.com. You can go grab it. The offer is good for 36 hours. I just want to have another cohort in for those of you guys who missed it during the launch. Okay? And all my book donors, I'm taking care of you guys. Like, you have no subscription. You can also get the training for free. So you're good. Okay. You guys ready? All right. So I'm going to go fast through this, but I'm going to explain what's happening while I'm going through it. Okay? So, quick introduction. The purpose here is that I want to confirm the thumb. So everyone here is for a purpose. This sounds obvious, right? But I want to explain every single word has to pay its rent. I've got 100,000 plus people on here live. If I waste a second on here, I'm losing people, right? So I have to make sure that, like, if it's not absolutely imperative, that it increases the likelihood of a purchasing decision in one way or another, or goodwill associated with the brand, it's out. And so the first thing I had to do was make sure that everyone knew that they were in the right place. You came here for a book launch. Welcome to my book launch. Great. Everyone's on the same page. We reaffirm why they came. Boom. Next slide. We create stakes. So literally the first thing you hear from me is we're going to try and break not one, but 2 world records. All right. Then we immediately have judges so that we can have verification, veracity, in making sure that the claims that we have are legitimate. So if I can immediately go from 0 to someone's about to die and here's proof, I have attention, right? So then we prove it out. They came out. It's going to be a wild ride. If you're like me, business need money to grow. And so this is the first time I make the promise. I'm going to show you to get more customers, spend more money, and less time and again, right? So we've got, why are you here? Big stakes, proof of the stakes, big, bold promise. We're talking first 15, 20 seconds, right? Right off the bat. Like, you cannot lose time. Like, those first 30 seconds are some of the most important time that you have in any kind of event. So then I have to put in my disclaimers, and I put a little bit of humor here. People know it's going to be fun. I'm going to keep it light. All right, everything's worth, your results will vary. Remind you that, like, the things at the bottom of the screen, of course, you're not going to get rich quick, et cetera, right? So we keep going. We'll see. That's more reminder of the stakes. Then this is me doing a damaging admission. Important, because believe it or not, people will trust you more if you tell the truth, crazy, of your conflict or your bias. So if you say, I have a bias, and then you state whatever your belief is, people will still believe you more than if you didn't state it. Crazy. So just if you are biased or you have conflict of interest, just say it and people will believe you more. State the facts and tell the truth. Number 1 rule of marketing and sales. And so I'm no saint. So I'm telling people, yes, I want to make money, and this is part of how my business works. We install money models. That's how I make my money. I'm going to give you something crazy. So now it's like, why should I believe you? So I got to go quickly into edification for the people who don't know who I am. So I have to say, hey, I sold a bunch of companies, made a bunch of money. My holding company, acquisition.com, it makes a lot of money from last year. Just to give context to how much money that is, it'd be top 15% of all 51,000 publicly traded companies. For people who are not in our world, it's like, well, how much is that? Well, that gives you some idea. This is a little bit of humor to keep it light, keep it fun. This ties it back to the mission. And now we're flipping the script, because now it's like, okay, I've talked about me. We got to get to you guys, right? And that's why that's why the script transitions. So boom, you're in the right place. Boom, you've got big stakes. You've got proof of those stakes. Big, bold promise. Proof that I am who I say I am. And then it's like, great, enough about me. Now it's about you, right? So boom, we have our bold promise set again. Money models get more customers, spend more money in less time over and over again. The reason this is important is because people forget, right? We said it in the first couple seconds. Got to say it again. Like, hearing a great promise, not a bad thing. Like, imagine, for the guys or the gals, if you're I have to think of non-X-rated examples here. Let's say you're in a loving married relationship, and your spouse says, hey, I'm not wearing any underwear. We should do something. That sounds weird coming from me now. I could imagine going to a girl. They'd be like, ugh. But in the reverse, it sounds quite nice. And so if she tells me that later again in the evening, I'm not less excited about the promise. So promising a good thing more times, not a bad thing. All right. And so then what happens when you have all these things? You get what you want, right? So here's the next big objection that people are immediately going to have. This thing, this concept, this idea is not going to work for me, right? And so how can I prove that? Now, I do a couple of really interesting things here. So I hit this from 3 different angles, technically 4, and I'll show you the first 3, and then the 4th one comes later. So number 1 is I just say directly this works for all these different things. And then I give a reasoning why, which then gives me a second list to hit, so I can get even more people covered with this umbrella, saying this works for all these people because I have a portfolio of companies, and that includes even more people, right? So that gives me my chunk down version that I can cover this up, right? Now on top of this is where it gets exciting. This is brand new. Never seen anyone do this. Here's how it works. So I said there's only 4 types of stuff you can sell, right? You can sell software, you can sell information, you can sell services, you can sell physical products. Okay? That's it. You got media, you got services, you got software, you got physical products. That's what you got. Info would be media, if I could reword that one, but it's from an old book, so I left it. So what I'm doing here is I'm forcefully labeling, okay? And I said, you can only sell these 4 things, and guess what? Money was working on 4 of them. Now, on top of that, right, which if your business sells stuff, that's everybody, includes you. So I'm trying to funnel everyone into saying, yes, this works for me, or this could work for me. And then I'm tying that, hey, this could work for you, to look at this outcome. That's how it's worked for me. Not saying that, of course, I have to have some liabilities. I'm not saying this is going to happen for you, right? And so then we have to sort. So quickly, it's like, okay, I got everyone in. We made the stakes. Now we have 2 types of people, up-and-coming entrepreneurs, right? The freebie people, and then we got business owners. So I say, hey, y'all are my ballers. These are my 2 people. Let's rock and roll. So this is what we're going to accomplish. We put our roadmap together, and then we're off to the races. Let's hit the first one. Okay. So for me, I had to satisfy a hook that I had used earlier in the advertising to make sure that people showed up, right? Many of you guys know, I mentioned it earlier, better than an NFT and less than a Bitcoin, right? And so am I really going to give you the secret project? And so I had to work that back in, and what am I doing? Open loop, right? So here we go. Can't tell you what it is yet, but just so you know it's legit, it's something that I will sell. So this creates stakes around the give, right? So I didn't say this until the launch. So this little tidbit of like, this will be for sale, makes the product even more legit that they're going to get for free. But I still have the loop because I haven't said what it is yet. All right? It's at the end of this live stream, and I'll show you how to get it for free. Okay? Now to the main event. So everything here has been laying the foundation for the real presentation. So I'm not expecting you to believe me, right? I will prove it to you. And this is where the actual presentation more or less begins. All right? And so everything up to that point, incredibly important, but what we had to do to lay the foundation. Okay. So new title slide, let me explain. Big believer in proof. And so this is what I consider the meta proof stack. This whole thing is all proof. It's all it is, this whole section. So proof, lots of people have proof. No one can prove it. My first book was proof that the offer was good. And I explained, look at all the rankings, look at all the sales, look at all the 5 stars. It's very good, it's very good, it's very good, right? And I could prove that it's good. Once you have that, the next thing you need is leads. And so I wrote another book, which is also really good. And proof that it's good is that I did this big advertising thing and I grew a lot. And here's more proof, 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 right? That it clearly still works, right? And so the beta launch made it undeniable, right? But something was still missing. So now I'm creating the need from these 2 things of proof to create the total meta frame, which was basically the first third of this, was around money models being the missing link, right? You have the first thing, you have the second thing, now you need the third thing, which is how do you make money, right? And so ideally as much as possible, as fast as possible, repeating the promise. And so that is what the money model is, right? But you still need proof. So then what am I going to do? Undeniable proof. So proof about this launch, proof about how we were able to liquidate CAC. If you want even more proof, how many people do we have live so far to show that it generated lots of people who were there? Great. We covered the first one. Next we have to figure out is how to scale it. How do we scale a business? We use inversion. So how do we kill one? Boom. The reason we have this one is that we need to create stakes. Just saying, hey, we need cash flow. It'll help you grow. What's even more powerful than gain? Loss. So I want to have more good stuff and less bad stuff. We have to hit both sides. All right? So how do we kill a business? Besides giving up, there's only one thing. I've got big stats to prove it. More proof. You run out of money. How do I know? U.S. Bank, billions on the line. Of course they know. Poor cash flow. If you've got no money, you got no business. Okay, we're going. You're broke. You can't be in business. How big is it? We're lowering the anchor and then actually proving that everybody's broke. Crazy. And so it turns out that a lot of businesses need help with cash flow, right? It means you work a lot. All I'm doing here is, this is all pain. Just so you guys are curious, this is all just pain. So if we think about any kind of sales process, motivation is always equal opposite of deprivation. So the pain is the pitch comes from this concept. We want to state where someone wants to be, and then we want to show all the deprivation, the stretch, the gap between where they are and where they want to be. That gap, that stretch, that pain is what motivates the action. And so this is me trying to hit, I would consider emotive examples. And notice the specificity here. Restful weekend, school plays, family dinners, birthdays, nights out. They're specific, not just free time, right? And you take more risk. And so you end up poorer than you started. So you do all this stuff and it sucks, right? It still sucks. But you think the other half are good. Nope, it's even worse than you think. This is just continuing to level up the stakes, leveling up the stakes around this, why this is so important, why this is so important, why this is so important, right? And this is me just calling a caveat for the business owners who are successful, because I want to make sure I'm not turning them off and saying, hey, if you had more cash flow in your larger business that makes money, this is still for you. It's just that you'll do even better with this. So I have to put those pieces in because I don't want to alienate the people who, though, are a smaller percentage. Just statistically, people who make more money are a smaller percentage than people who make less money. But they're also the ones who have the buying power. So we want to make sure I'm not disenfranchising those people. And so then all of us leads us to a conclusion, right? Which is that you will lose money trying to get and serve new customers. This is me creating the problem that we can then solve, right? And so this is me saying that problem. It's a very big problem because if you do that long enough, your business will die. So think about what's happening here. We created this meta proof. This thing improves cash flow. Why is cash flow important? Well, it'll help you scale the business. It also helps you not die, because if you don't have this thing for a long time, you will die. Okay? Which then brings you to point 3. So how do you make it impossible to die? Right? You either limited by cash and take a really slow time to grow, or you don't grow at all and die, or you get the big promise that I promised at the beginning. And so then I do this math, which I only show this in here because this is actually catered to the more advanced people, which is who I want, right? And I want these people to know that this is not just, despite the fact that I will lower the reading level for competence and comprehension, or rather for comprehension for the vast majority of the audience, there is still clear math that supports this point. That's the only reason this exists here, right? So I say, hey, this is what it looks like with big fancy stuff, but in the real world, then I tie it back in, it just starts with an offer, right? So I have to define terms. So what is a money model, right? What's an offer? What's a money model? These build together. And when you do a $100 million money model, which is the whole thing of what I'm selling here, is you can ultimately unlock scale, right? When you do that, you move cash as limited for growth. All right, and so there's 4 mechanisms. So now we get into the more uniqueness. This is actually the core concepts, right? Attraction, upsells, downsells, continuity. And the result is, because these are the unique mechanisms that create this outcome that you really want, cash flow is the key, right? Guarantees that you stay in business, and I will prove it to you. So now I want to borrow the credibility of big brands, right? JP Morgan, GE, Ford, Amex, Coca-Cola, 3M, what do they all have in common? They're all 100 years old. How can something be 100 years old? It has to be hard to kill. How is it hard to kill? Because it has proof that I have proof that it uses what I talk about. See the connection here? So I, of course, want to use my own proof, but if I can also use third-party proof or statistical proof, all of these are different types of proof that we weave in so that if you think about what this whole presentation is, it's just a single argument. If you had more cash flow, you could scale faster and you could get what you want. And then the rest of this is simply showing if you don't have cash flow, life sucks. It's very likely that you don't have cash flow and life would be really bad. Look at all these people who have great cash flow and they're impossible to kill. And look at these 4 mechanisms that unlock cash flow. All of it is centered around the one core argument that we attack from as many angles as we can. And so then, more stakes, hard economic times. Many people have been through some of these things where I think, wow, the Great Depression, we're going through something like that right now, or the economy's tough. It's like, well, these businesses survived even worse than that. How? Because they had a money model, right? And they had cash flow, right? That's the whole idea. In other words, they kept making money, right? And so and this is me translating those world life events into realistic circumstances that a business owner will experience. Bad leads, bad customers, bad reviews, bad hires, bad lawsuits, bad economies. Everything kills businesses like yours and mine, walk in the park. And so the idea as we're going through this is that I'm just proving that people who don't succeed have broken money models, and all we have to do is if you just focus on fixing it, you'll grow. But most people don't, which is why they can't succeed, right? So if that's the most, so think about this, I'm making a logical argument. If cash flow is the most important thing, and a money model is the most powerful way to increase it, how do we make a good one? Which then means you build a $100 million money model, and this is what it looks like when it's right, okay? And this just gives you, this is what it looks like when it's right. More examples of what it looks like when it's right. This is increasing the upside. Yay, increasing the upside, you grow really fast. And then proof that I know this is true, 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 all with a $100 million money model. You get really big, really profitable, really fast, without loads of followers or cash, which is what many people are dealing with. Just a few tweaks. So, what happens to a normal business when you add this in? So, that then is now we transition from the first 3 points to application, okay? Hopefully you guys are digging this. So, how to apply this to your business today? So, purpose of this section was 2 things, right? So, number 1 is I want to show the mechanisms working in any business. So, this is the 4th labeling technique that I mentioned earlier. So, we did front end, I know these work in all these industries because I said so and I have authority. The second is because I have experience using them in our portfolio. Then I also said there's 4 types of things that you can sell, and they work in all of them. And then I gave examples of my own businesses, and then this is another labeling technique that we use that I've never seen before, which is basically around selling mechanisms. So it's like, what's another way? Because the number 1 obstacle that I'm going to get that I know is that I'm a special snowflake. These business models, these money models do not work in my industry. It doesn't work for dental. It doesn't work for real estate. It doesn't work for whatever. Insert your thing that you're special, right? I know this is the number 1 thing, which is why I'm hammering it from every possible angle I can. And so they work in these 4 things, and here's the cool part, is first, it works in all these conditions, and you only need 1 to make it work. So it's like, it works for all this stuff, and not that you need to do all this stuff, you only need to do 1. If you do that 1, you can get what you want. Okay. So, special snowflake, here we go, right? So only 4 ways to sell. So what am I doing here? This is another labeling technique. So I'm saying you can sell in person, online, you can have a salesperson or a self-checkout. These are the 4 ways you can sell. Pick which one you are. Why would I do that? So that everybody picks a box. Fundamentally, you can't not be in one of those boxes. And so as long as you're in one of those boxes, I say, okay, great. Guess what? Money models work for you, right? So it's like I continue to get someone to label themselves and then say, guess what? They work for you. So that's number 1. Then, like literally, that entire point for that section, it had no other point besides saying, yes, it works for you. Then we go to the one thing. If we can just, because the thing is we want to have a very big outcome, but we want the distance between where they are and where they want to be very achievable, right? And so in order to do that, we need to simplify to one thing and say, this is all we need to do, right? If we just did this one thing, we get where we want to go, right? Of course, without making promises you can't keep, et cetera, okay? So I then say, great, there's 4 types of offers. And then I'll prove it in the real world. So we have our 4 examples. And so I purposely have people label themselves so that I could then do an example exactly like them and then crush it. All right? So if they sold in person, they took some sort of action to sell in the chat. And I like people, making some sort of out loud commitment that they are this type of person. And by doing that, here's my first good money model. So then I tell my story, gym membership, look what happened. We used a money model, and then the business exploded. So I had to check off. So this was really interesting. So I tried to check off 3 sets of boxes with each example. So 1, I'm checking off the box of I'm using one of the 4 use cases. Check. Number 2, I'm also using brick and mortar, consumer service, business service, SaaS, e-commerce. So I'm checking all of those boxes simultaneously with the types of ways to sell. On top of that, I'm pulling out each of the 4 different types of offer structures in money models so that I can demonstrate all 4 of them, which was kind of the meaty part of the whole webinar, so that I can still feel like people got value, learned something they didn't know. All right. So there's 3 separate angles that are coming that I'm trying to cover at the same time. So we've got selling style, we've got industry, and then we have the money model. So fundamentally, this whole thing, that's all it is. I just go through all 3 of them, and then I check off the box, or all 4 of them, excuse me, I check off the box. We move through the next one. I give proof. This works for this one too. Here's the money model that worked. More proof, more proof, more proof, more proof. And here's the next one. More proof that this works. Here's the story. This is e-commerce. This is the money model. This is proof. Yes, it worked again. And so each one of these is like if you're studying this, has the same structure. Person had goal. Things were bad. Thing happened. Things got better. The thing that happened was the thing that I have, and not only that, it got even better than that, and it worked over and over again. Then the next example. It was bad. We introduced a new thing. Things got good. Then I have more proof. Again, again, again. It'll work for you. Like that is the whole process over and over and over again. Okay? So we follow this through. Now we have school. Then now we hit our SaaS example. Now, with this example, I specifically spent more time explaining the product of school. Now, I had to do this because I told you I had 6 minutes I had to transition from the free stack to the donation offer. So I had to front load the explanation of what school was to people who didn't know what school was about, which, by the way, school had the sickest drop yesterday. Insane. If you didn't take up the launch offer, you can still sign up for $9. So like, you know, you're not going to die. But it had an absolutely absurd update yesterday, which is mental. But anyways, that being said, I had to explain what the product was, right? And that you could use money models, which yesterday that update now has, like, you can do like almost all the models in the book. It's nuts. And so I had to explain it all within the context that was not threatening. So I'm not selling school here, right? I'm just saying what school's about so that later when I promote school and I make the offer, people know what it's about. All right, so I had to weave this in earlier. So I explained the old model. Look at the new model. Look, this is a really big company. It's actually grown a lot. How do we do that? Same new thing. It's growing really fast. It's also cash flow positive. More proof. 4 ways to sell, including the thing you sell. We're moving through it, right? And so finally, we have the last version of proof, which is the crescendo of this whole thing, which is like, we're here. So the best version of proof. So for those of you who got the book launch bundle, the proof checklist, live, right? Happening in front of you. Demonstrate, like, as much as you can demonstrate proof rather than use recorded proof, far more compelling. And so me having the Guinness World Record people there, it's like, they're there, right? I'm here right now. And so that will always be more compelling, okay? So I go through this, explain why this event also is more proof of a different money model, and this is also a physical product, which I explain, and then we explain the math behind it, which is just more proof that this works, right? And then there's obviously some, I'm very clear throughout this whole presentation, like I'm not saying this is going to happen for you. We spent money, we made more, et cetera, et cetera. And this is literally just proof. This is all this is, just proof. Great, we satisfied all these different conditions, which means every single box in the audience. I'm trying to check, because the thing is you're not going to win the audience. Of course, the big ideas matter, totally. But to maximize conversion, it's like it's all in the edges. It's like, how do I hit that 1%, that 1%, that 1%, that 1%, that 1%, that 1%. So it's like, it's each of these little lines. It's like, I got to make sure I cover SaaS. I got to make sure I cover e-commerce. I got to make sure I cover brick and mortar. I got to make sure I cover B2C. I got to make sure I cover B2B. I got to hit each of these lines, and not only doing it once, but doing it in different angles in different ways, right? I might hit B2B, but they're brick and mortar and identify as brick and mortar. They might have both those things that I already hit, but it doesn't resonate with them, which is why I talk about the sales motion, right? I might talk about how I run ads. Any of these are examples, and I try to hit as many flavors as I can so they can say, oh, that's just like me. That's all we're trying to do here is just say, that's just like me. So as long as the business sells something, there's a money model that scales it, right? That's how powerful it is, right? So then we keep going. I want to transfer this. This is the transition to the pitch, by the way, guys. So if you're like, how do I transition to the pitch? You make the transition here. You say, great, we've covered a lot. Here's what we covered so far. You do recaps. So the way I like doing recaps is just screenshot the slide and then explain what you would say on top of the slide of how you describe the slide, which is all I'm doing here. These are all slides that I had said earlier, right? And it's just the heavy hitters. The reason I think this is super important is that when you hit these right near the end, people realize how much you've covered, right? Like if you think about all the stuff that even just this speed roll, right? It's like cash flow's the only thing, like, and this is also, by the way, a recap of your argument. Hear me out here. This is a recap of your argument. So just listen to the words, okay? cash flow is the only thing a business needs to survive. If each customer pays for 2 more, you remove cash flow as a limiter. A $100 million money model is a sequence of offers to get each customer to pay for 2 more. The 4 money model mechanisms are these 4 things. The only 4 ways to sell stuff are these 4 ways. And a $100 million money model works for all of them. And $100 million money models make this launch profitable using the concepts before it was released. Can you see? And now this is yes question. This is called a yes stack. So can you see how doing this can unlock the growth you want? Can you see how it can help you grow on your own? So each of these like can use is going to hit a different type of person. Now some people might say yes to all of them. Some people say yes to some of them, right? Can you see how this is the big promise right at the beginning? Get more customers, spend more money in less time, and can unlock the growth you want. Can you see how having a better money model helps you grow on your own without taking on bad debts, lame partners, or trouble investors, right? Can you see how it can help you weather bad storms, bad hires, and bad economies? Can you see how mastering money models helps you change your entire business life without changing your product or delivery? So it's like you're getting all this good stuff, preventing all this bad stuff without doing a lot of change to your business, right? That is a great yes stack. Can you see finally why this is a skill worth having, right? And so the idea is we want to get them to say yes. So they're like, yes, this is for me, right? And so here's the question. This is the big transition to the pitch. Who wants to master it? Great. And then here we do a little bit of a reveal, okay? So people don't come out to my headquarters because they think I understand their business. They come out because I understand the models of making money. And so this is where we transition. This is still all part of the transition to the pitch. This is the best of what I know after many, many years, what took me doing on the floor to cool stuff like this. And then I introduce with great pride $100 million money models, okay? So here we have the opportunity. So then it's like you have the 15 money model mechanisms. You can combine them and use them. And this is all about mastering monetization, right? And so what does cash flow get you? Benefit, 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 so that you can get big promise, all right? It's the most how-to system I've ever made. And guess what? We have proof. By judging the world record, we just maybe unofficially broke at the beginning, possibly ever made. And so, boom, right now we go right into the bonuses. So bonus stack, I'm just going to explain one of them because it's the exact same layout every time. So first thing you're going to get, second thing you get, third thing you get, I just say this is the thing you're going to get. And then we have the benefit of the thing. You convert strangers into first-time buyers with the thing. You can get trash people to pick up your trash the first time with thing. Doesn't matter. Big promise with thing. Great. So here I'm getting people to opt in. So if you're someone who X, if you're somebody who Y, or you're Z, or you're W, then this is for you, right? So each of these, I go big promise, and then if you are A, B, C, or D, this is for you. Now, I use proof that I used earlier, so I don't have to retell the story. Remember, because this is compressing time. So remember I scaled these 6 locations. Here's how I did it. Because I take that one big outcome and I say, it's just from this one tiny thing. But guess what? You get so much more, right? And so here, this is the stack, all right? So we have the tiny little thing, and we say, here's what this thing is. Here's why it matters. Here's why doing them right is important versus doing them wrong. And here's what you get inside. So then you explain what's inside, which for me was 2 sentences. Like, think about this. 2 sentences per mechanism. So I have a whole chapter. I have to do this in 2 sentences. 2 sentences, 2 sentences, 2 sentences, 2 sentences, sometimes 3. 2 sentences, 5 mechanism. Boom, you see all 5. So I had to rock this whole thing in 10 sentences. Think how nuts that is. 5 full chapters of the book in 10 sentences. Word compression. And even though I give you a lot, only one of these is all you need to change your business quickly. Great. Then a little bit of a wordy, change, stack, and combine, endless ways to make whatever you want more attractive, benefit. So then we transition. We've got our what this is, why it matters, why it's important to do it right. Then what's inside. We give the examples of what's inside. Then we go future pace. So imagine what it would be like to live in or experience the benefit, right? That's the picture of this part, right? When done right, you're just one tweak away from feeding your business for life, right? Think about your current leads. So this is, again, you can even look at the visuals. It's all about imagining what it would be like to have this result. And could you imagine how much your business would change, right? And then it's like, hey, but this basically cost me a lot. So this wasn't cheap for me, right? And every one of those is like, here's the big promise. But this cost me a lot in terms of time, money, and pain. But I'm going to help you avoid all that time, money, and pain. So you get all the good stuff, less bad stuff, thing, right? So it came at a high cost of XYZ, but you have to go through years of trying to figure out all these mechanisms, which of course I want to save you that hassle. So it helps you skip all of that. And so the bottom line, this is the TLDR. We summarize it. And because of the pain and effort that we went into it, and this is clear, I'll just be clear with you guys. You cannot claim prices or values unless you can actually justify them. I did sell this for $15,999. And so as a result, I can claim, otherwise you are not compliant as an advertiser. So like it's worth $1 zillion. One, people don't believe it as much. So you want to use prices you actually sell stuff for. That's what makes it compelling. And so I sold one of these for 16 grand. I'm giving you all 5 for at least what I would consider to be a $16,000 value. So then that's the first thing. Now, each time we're repeating the same process. What is this? Why does it matter? Why it's important to do it right? What's inside? Picture this. What's happening? And then, but it cost me a lot of money and time and pain. It's time, money, and pain that you're not going to have, which is why it's worth this, which is why it's the second thing you're going to get. Here's the third, right? You just do this over and same, right at the front. Again, same thing. Big, bold promise. And then if you're somebody who's not getting this or this or this or this is for you. Big promise, and then we're in. Why it matters, what it is, why doing it right is important, what you're going to get inside, and then we go through it. 2 sentences each. Can you imagine? More good stuff, less bad stuff. I'll show you the best way. I sold my thing for this much money. It made this. Here's more proof. It gives you all 4. This one I took out the how much the pain and suffering that I went through for this one, partially because some of the bonuses I had to really crush the time down, and of all the places that I was willing to cut, because it was obviously not monetized, I cut some beef out of this stack. So anyways, we go through it. I'll go through the rest of these. It's the exact same layout over and over and over and over again, all the way through. We get the full stack. And the whole thing sets up all the stories I told so I don't have to retell them. So if you can cross-pollinate proof, it saves you time. It still creates the same effect, right? And so retelling the proof here. And we had the 4 offer mechanisms, which then obviously maps to the offer, which has all 4 of these things. Congratulations, great. We have all 4. We have all 4 anchors. And then finally, we have the whole thing put together, right? Okay, so now I've got this big thing. All I'm doing here is decreasing how much work it is, right? So do this, you become a good thing. You can instantly make any product better and change. And this is notice what's purple here. Change nothing about what you deliver, right? So I just went through all this stuff. People are going to be overwhelmed. So I'm like, hey, you don't have to change anything about what you deliver. Just how you present it, how they buy, and how much they spend, right? And then again, you only have to do one of these things to change your life or change your business. You don't need anything to do else. So I just explained a lot of stuff, so I'm just bringing it back in, right? Making it more digestible before we move on. So you'll notice this kind of accordion theme of like, build it up, and then, hey, don't worry. We just got to do this thing. Hey, this is amazing. Hey, don't worry. It's just this thing, right? And that's kind of the cycle, the rhythm of this, all right? So this is a real emotive example. Many people think that they need to change their business, when in reality, they just need to change their money model. So the money model is significantly less painful than changing your entire business. So now this is actually a pretty straight down the middle fastball price drop. So 4-year degree, $100,000 for me. We do $1 million days, which by the way, the AI, so go.acq.com, every single $1 million day of consulting I have, all of it is pre-programmed in the AI. So if you are basically any business that I just named in this webinar, I have consulted with it, and you can get basically all the benefits of that consulting for free. Not for free, sorry. $3,000. It feels like free to me. That's why I'm saying it. And then it's $300 a month after that, which mostly is like covering the cost of the CPUs and whatever. But yeah, if that's ever the concern, then you need to come to the AI workshop. I will show you how to use this thing right. It's what our team uses too. And so this is one of the ways that we scale our own practice and have improved gross margins is because we can scale that thinking power. Anyways, so this is a price anchor of $1 million, boom. And then that's why it'd be reasonable at 69. Before I tell you the price, let me ask you a question. And so these are all hypotheticals of what it would be worth to you. Get the number in your head. If you knew it would happen, which of course you can't, I have to be compliant, wouldn't it be worth that much hypothetically? This is me giving more proof. It'd be worth it at any price for all these people. And so this is just if all this did was, right? We're just going through here. Wouldn't it be nice? This is very, very formulaic. So this part, I'm not gonna spend it too much time on. Like it's a traditional price drop. So we're gonna go all the way down. Now I wanted to make sure that I stood a little bit of gotcha from last time, right? And so I still put this line in, right? I want to be affordable for everyone, but still an investment. And so this was a little bit of the seeding, a little bit of the leading along, because I wanted to have a little bit of that emotive moment, right? So I'm not going to ask for this, and then we do the final stack. And the key point, by the way, for everybody, is that you have to restack every time. You don't want to do it. You feel like it's weird. You got to do it. It does not have the psychological effect unless you recreate the contrast and then re-bring it back down. It does not work. If you try to create a bonus stack and then you do not restate every item of the bonus stack, it is not as effective. You have to recreate this contrast. So believe it or not, the way this works behaviorally is that the reason a price drop and a bonus stack is so painful, right, to go through as both a presenter sometimes and a consumer is that it's actually a punishing experience, but it is reinforcing, different. So like if you look at our retention curve on a stack, it's flat. Like everyone wants to see the train crash. Everyone wants to see the payoff. And so the payoff is this massive moment of anticipation of what's the price going to be, right? And so every time you add it, every time you say, and there's also this, and there's also this, and so like if you think about the roller coaster, we're adding, and we're adding up the price, and it's getting more and more painful. Then we're dropping, and we're releasing the tension. So basically, all of this is building up deprivation, right? All of this is painful, and we build up this pressure, and then we relieve the pressure, which is why it's such an effective technique. You build it up over and over and over, then you cut it down over and over and over, and then you present. All right, and so then I do my final little jig. And I also did three payments of, because I didn't think anyone would guess I do 3 payments of 0. So I made that. I thought it'd be cute. So it was $0, right? So so obviously everybody here who was there in that moment, that was a fun moment, right? I always think that was, I thought it was, for me it was a lot of fun. So 100% free, everyone gets excited. My way of saying thank you. And this again, I partially do the first half because I want more people to have the book. I also do genuinely get what it's like to be broke. And I relied on all the free shit. So I want to have the best stuff. And I also know that I consumed free stuff. And then later when I started making money, happily paid everybody that I consumed anything from. Because I was like, dude, like you made money, man. Like I owe you this, right? Like I don't even need anything else. I'm paying you at a delay, right? And I prefer to operate that way. And so that's why I make the stuff that I do. So yeah, that's why that is that way. Yeah, unfortunately, AI is super expensive, not just to develop, but also like to use. Like we have a very expensive AI bill just from CPU usage. We've had over 600,000 jobs done by the AI in 8 weeks. Think about that. 600,000. That is a lot. So yeah, back to this. So now we restack. So I took everyone on this ride. We stacked it all the way down. It's free. And now I'm coming back up, right? So we're coming back up. But wait, there's more. You're also going to get the audiobook. On top of that, you're also going to get the free gift, which is something else, another secret book, which is the Lost Chapters. Oh my God, this is great too, right? So now you have the second or third free thing that you're getting, right? And then the fourth free thing, here we go. there's one more, which was you don't want to just have all the information, you need to have the tools, right? And so the tools is what the schools was for. All right, so let me tell you I'd say the biggest copy mistake that I made in the whole presentation. So, obviously one of our stipulations was that when the right time we could do 3 things, add everything in money models to make it work, which we have. The features launched literally the end of those features, not end of, but like a big bulk of those got launched yesterday, which I'm super excited about. Number 2 is give you enough free time to get going. I purposely wanted to also extend it to make sure that all the features that were going to be associated, people could have during their free period, which is why we did it that way. So then it's like instead of 14 days free, and then I stacked up free. So if you're ever going to present a number, you pretty much always want to stack it. So if you have 10 days free, then it's like, it's not 1 day or 2 day or 5 days, it's 10, right? You don't just say it's 10. It's not nearly as fun, right? It just makes it way more emotive. So this was the big copy mistake that I made. So school we basically have a pro tier that's $99 a month, right? And for the launch, a month before, we started the hobby tier, which was $9. We got the kinks out of it so that we could do the launch and have the $9 option. So, but the way I presented it here, it looks like, so here it's like we drove the price down from $99 to only $9. And what I'm saying here is that like we created a $9 option. And if I had just said it that way, it would have been less confusing. So that was, you have 1,700 slides, you do the best you can. But yeah, if I could I was like, he tried to dupe. It's like, dude, it's $9. Like, no, I'm not for the love of God, no. But yeah, we created 2 tiers. There's a hobby tier and there's a pro tier. The hobby tier has everything the pro tier has, except for the things that you would need as a pro. Like you can have multiple admins and like API integrations and tiers. These are all things that only somebody who would probably be more advanced would use, whereas somebody who's a beginner might not need that stuff, which is why it's $9. So anyways, all that to say, I want to be real with you. If I could remake the slide, I would have just said, for anyone who stays after 90 days, you have the option of either doing $99 a month, which is all we've had for however long, but now for the first time ever, you can stay for only $9, right? That's all I would have had to say, and it would have been super clean. I just, you win some, you lose some. Okay, so, and it was only for that book launch for the 90 days, which is true, which crushed. And that's the best head start I can give you. Okay, so mind you, we've had this big moment, we've had this big release, right? Then, so I've got all this free stuff. So notice, here's a key point. Remember the web got riled up about that. Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I had 1,700 slides. I made 100 call to actions. We reviewed 400 pages of copy. It's that the $9 was truly $9. It's just that some people thought they deserved the $99 option for $9 rather than just the $9 option, even though they had no use for the 99 tools anyways. What are you gonna do? You try your best. Yeah, literally two slides in terms of copy. The end result is the same. You pay $9. It's just how I framed it would have just been clear, and that's just on me. Thanks, Cameron. Okay, so we give all this free stuff away, right? And here's where I had to paint this thing like with surgical precision. So now it was like, okay, here's all the stuff. You can't have it yet. So I've got everyone riled up. We have this moment, but there's no CTA. All right? So whenever you give a CTA, assume that people are leaving, right? And so, by the way, go.acq.com. So when you give a CTA, people are going to leave, right? And so I don't want people to leave before the true donation offer, right? Now, if somebody's, a freebie seeker, that's fine. They can go grab it. But I didn't want anyone to leave. I want to keep the momentum, right? So the transition is from here to the beginning of the pitch. I practiced a lot of times. I'll just say that. So at the beginning, I said so the reason I do the sorting at the beginning is so that I could say, hey, and this is all of this is super important. I labeled everybody at the beginning, and I said the up-and-coming entrepreneurs. So most people don't want to identify that. Now, if you do identify that, then that's why I give you all this free stuff, and the next thing wouldn't be for you anyways. Do you feel like I kept my promise? Now, the point here is that I'm trying to close the loop on these people. Like, hey, you're up and coming. You're a freebie seeker. you don't have money? Totally fine. Boom. Did I keep my promise? Yes. So I want people to say yes, and we did get that in the chat. So this was the transition. So right at this point, did I keep my promise? Is when I said, hey guys, do you mind taking down the screens for a second? And I did this. I rehearsed the exact same thing, which was I took hat off. I took the paper out of pocket, unfolded it, and then I read my letter. After reading the letter, I said, great. To all the people who are, harder off, do you feel like you're not going to get upset with me if I try and get the ballers to buy some books? Everyone said, no, we're not going to be upset. And so this was partially the keeping my promise / putting anyone who's going to be a whiny little ninny in a box. And so I could actually talk to legitimate business owners, which unfortunately in the internet is a minority, but they are 100% of my real audience, right? Y'all are my real audience. And so I had to put that whole process in 6 minutes, say my letter, and so then as soon as the hat comes back on, screens come up, and that's when the momentum changes. And we say, now, business owners, players, money makers, if you're in the game, I made this for you. And so it's a clear call out, and I want it to be an aspirational title that my true avatar is like, that's me. I'm a baller. I'm a moneymaker. I'm in the game. And if you're like, that's me, then I'm like, I made this for you. So everything I talked about earlier, that's not for you. That is for an up-and-comer. That's for a beginner. This is for you. So I'm going to ask you, and then it goes straight to CTA, right? So I confront the price right off the bat. So it's reverse. So everything else up to this point was ladder all the way up with bonuses, price anchor, price drop all the way down, price drop down to free, not just free, but even more than free, and even more than free, and even more than free. Isn't that amazing? Did I keep my promise? Yes. Heartfelt moment. Pattern interrupt. Anchor that everybody over there was taken care of. Great. Now the pitch begins. And so this is where the true pitch started. Bruno, any code for the ACQ AI? Like, just go to go.acq.com and just check out there. There's no codes, but it's only 36 hours or 35 hours, whatever it is from now. So then I say, I'm going to ask you to donate 200 bucks. And obviously my whole mission has been make real business education accessible for everyone. So it's on brand for me. It's aligned for me to get other people to donate books. Books are is a core pillar of my brand. And so getting the books in more hands made sense on a lot of levels, right? One is it's on brand for me. Number two is people who distribute more books brings more people to my world. And so that's why we did it that way. And I wanted to release all these playbooks that I had written because I've written them and I was like, I have to give these. These have come out of my soul. I must give them into the world. And so right after this, it's boom, we confront price. So it's like, get price out of the way. Like some people are already like, they're hot and bothered from the first sale. They're ready to buy. Get price out of the way. And so then I say, hey, I'm going to spend the next few minutes explaining why it's going to be the best decision of your business, that you make this year easily. And so I show how long I've been doing this, which is true. This whole thing has been, 4-year plus project. I did all this stuff way ahead of time. Right? And so then we're like, okay, how do we get these books in the hands of every person in America? So this is all big reason why. This is all big mission focus, right? And so this gets into, partially some of what we talked about today, which is like, how do I do something crazy? Weeks after the last launch, I started training an AI, which, you guys already know the second half of this. I started training an AI on all the stuff we're doing, right? And started documenting all these playbooks. And people didn't know why I did it, right? It was from that launch, so 1,000 plus businesses, 18 months. These are all the industries. Also, I do these industries right at the front. Notice the similar pattern to last time. So at the beginning, I said, I know money models work because they work in all these industries. And I know that because I also use them in all the businesses I invest in. So this is the beginning of another webinar. So I say, hey, I worked with 1,000 businesses, and here's a visual pie chart of all these industries. It's the same process, but I had to have that trend. That's why the 6 minutes between the end of the last one and the beginning of this one was so crucial in terms of making this whole thing work. Now, one of the things I did here that, again, I don't think I saw many people do, I've never really seen anybody do, is I did a scarcity stack right at the beginning. So we wanted to get this data. So this is me re-explaining why we did this, right? These are the 4 constraints most business owners struggle from. So this is me recreating, like just like the we had the 4 elements of attraction, offers, upsells, downsells, and continuity. I have 4 things that comprise the system. Now, I had 16, I think it's 16, no, however many books it is, right? The playbooks. I originally was like, wait, I can't make all these bonuses, too many, right? And so one of the things that pained me about this, and this will probably pain you about anything you pitch, is that you will not be able to give as much detail to all the things that you've spent all these hours on. These playbooks, when I explained them, they got 3 bullets. That's it. Like weeks and weeks and weeks of work per book, just 3 bullets, right? And then I'm on to the next one, because as much as my emotions want to like explain how amazing what's inside is, people have very short attention spans, and so you have to chunk up. I couldn't even talk about them as their real own thing. They were just, each of them was really a larger component of the leads constraint, the sales constraint, the delivery constraint, and then the profit constraint. So we have the systems that correspond to those problems. Okay, so this is all creating problem solution for the beginning of the pitch. It works for all these industries. Most people struggle with these problems. Here are the solutions that we came up with after doing all this work, right? This is proof. This is all proof, right? And then I take out the thing, too valuable. I knock it on here, not some log you never use. This had to be a boom, and I slap it on the counter. Physical implementation playbook, hold in reference, and this is now where I'm beginning to interact with all of the props, right? You can display them on your shelf, and then the whole point here is I'm trying to get people to imagine what it would be like to use these things and have them in their surroundings, right? And so I'm setting all this up without even, remember, I'm not explaining what's inside of it yet. I'm just saying what problems it solves. That's it, right? Each one of these has these different playbooks. Here's a big visual that looks sexy. This is an anchor around the value. So if we're thinking through this, it's like, here's what it is. Here's how you can imagine yourself using it. Here's a visual. And here's the anchor of why it's valuable. And so if people are paying $35,000 for a single playbook's worth of implementation, right, it's $420,000. Now, people haven't come 12 times yet. But for one of the days that someone might come here, we might get portions of one or two of these playbooks, right? And so it is a legitimate value. And so today, you can get them in your hands, right? When you help me put 200 books in the hands of other people for $6,000, right? And you'll want to get them now. Now, this is the beginning of the scarcity stack. So mind you, I basically just said this is what it is. I didn't explain anything that's inside of it. I just said these are the 4 problems it solves. Go grab them. That's it. Which, by the way, you can go to go.acq.com if you want to get the AI. All right? And so you're going to want to get them now. And this is when I explain the scarcity component. So this is a stack for scarcity. I've literally never seen anyone else do this. All right, people just provide scarcity, but they do not stack it. All right, so the good news is, and I've got bad news. The good news, so all I'm trying to say, lots of people will want this thing, right? It's going to be really affordable for a ton of you guys, and then give you some logistics around actually checking out. This is how you check out, which, by the way, it sounds ridiculous that you'd have to do that. You totally have to do that, which is why I showed you the page and said go.acq.com, right? And then justify that in terms of what that looks like a week. It's 2 books a week. It's very easy for people to get their minds around. I also have people who can help you check out. If you have any number, like this is literally all checkout logistics, right? But on top of that, when you support other entrepreneurs, you won't have to wait until Tuesday. So now I get to take that free thing and say, by the way, you get the free stuff sooner. So I get a little bit of a benefit. Now, if you have the option, I can't overemphasize how important latency or speed is to getting someone to buy. If you had the option of giving a really big thing at a delay or a very tiny thing immediately, the tiny thing immediately almost always will drive more conversions. I promise you, just try it. Like, this is where speed, like, I'm telling you, like, from the bottom of my heart, from everything that I've sold in my life, speed crushes. So if you can give, which by the way, you get instant access to the AI at go.acq.com. You can literally start using it in seconds. All right, so FYI. But if you can pull that forward, it all of a sudden and this delay, think about, I think this is kind of clever. This delay was manufactured. So I said, you don't get it Tuesday. I could have given it whenever, right? But you had to wait till Tuesday, and then we had to wait till Tuesday because I needed to finish the promotion for the main thing. If you didn't buy the main thing, then you can get the free thing, right? But if you do buy it, I can pull it forward. So I create a delay and then cut the line by telling you to buy. right? Pretty clever. I think it's clever. So that was the good news. Lots of people want it. I made it really easy. Lots of people I made it super affordable. There's lots of demand. Now, here's the bad news. This is the truth. I only had 25,000 of them assembled, which I did. And I said, it's likely that we'll sell that many. I didn't know. It's likely. So here's the perspective, right? So there are, and this is where I said how many people were there alive. And we had proof because I had a judge shout out that we had 130,000 people live. That wasn't me. That was verified, right? And I also plan on emailing my 1.4 million person email list. They're like, wait a second. There's 131,000 live. You got 1.4 million on the list. It's like, that's a lot of people. I also have 21,000 affiliates. That's 21,000 audiences. So that expands it even larger, right? So look, this is a stack here, right? 25,000 out of 3 million. Now, I have to put context around this. If I have 25,000, we have to have a less than 1% conversion on this whole audience. Now, 1% would be a low cold conversion, right? 2% would be kind of average. Now, the last launch, we had 12.2%, right, of people buy. Now, mind you, that was a different price point, right? But it was still very good, right? And I think I said that, right? So it's like, people will already think of the skepticism. Like, you don't need to, state the facts and tell the truth. You will be more compelling if you just tell everyone what they're already thinking, right? And so it would be reasonable for us to be at 3 to 5%, given the fact that we're a warm audience, et cetera, right? And so if you're wondering why I did it, it's for 2 reasons. 1, scarcity changes behavior, of course. And number 2 is I just didn't order enough, a little bit of humor. And so this was the first stack. And so then it's like, great, CTA. Now, the reason this is so important is that the point of the webinar and the point in a sales process, and really take this to heart, is that you want to ask for the sale as many times as humanly possible, with the caveat that you want to ask as many people as many times as humanly possible. And the only way to do that is not piss everyone off. And so it's a balancing act between, I want to ask as many times as possible to as many people as possible, and the only way to get them to stay is to not be a dick, right? And so this is why having good reasons to ask again and doing it on a cadence allows you to make more sales. So the salesperson that asks someone to buy more times will close more deals, period. Having a high frustration tolerance for someone saying no and asking again is a key skill in sales. And if you can find a way, this is why one-on-one sales, if you can just keep asking, oftentimes you will get more. I have, from all the trainings and all the stuff I've done with salespeople, the more I do it, the more I think what they say back in terms of the overcomes matters significantly less than just asking again. And so people do get fatigued from saying no, especially when it's later in the day, et cetera. And so we want to, if we believe in our products, then we want to maximize the likelihood that people make decisions that help themselves. And if we have more information than they do, then as long as you believe in it because you know more about the context than they do, then you should maximize the likelihood that they make a good decision. That's fundamentally persuasion, right? Which is the difference between that and manipulation, which is the same idea, just hurts them. All right, so we did the scarcity stack, which is thing 1, right? Then we have first reason to CTA. All right, so we've made it available, CTA number 1. CTA number 2, we have a reason for you to buy now, scarcity. Okay, so I had to tease for the ultra business owners because some of these people are already going out to the checkout. Some of you guys are here, already went to the checkout. The checkout on the thank you page had scale advisory. This was also something that has never been done before. All right, so in terms of things that were net new, I would say the 4-box for selling that I mentioned in the first webinar, net new. Never seen anyone do it. Number 2, net new, was the scarcity stack. I have yet to see anyone else do it. If someone has, amazing. I just haven't seen anyone stack scarcity. The third thing that was net new is I have not seen people go for a 6K price point on a webinar of this size, not even close. That was a huge gutsy move because there's so many people that I spoke with that basically advised me not to do that and was like, no one gets above 3,500, like you're gonna have credit card. And so what I did was I did ask the AI to do a deep research project. And basically $6,000 was the front end. And then the immediate upsell was $3,000 for 6 months, $3,000 a month for 6 months, which is scale advisory. And that means it was $9,000 in total. So when you look at SMBs, the average credit card approval rate, or the number of business owners who have credit of $10,000 or more, was 70%. And so with that number, I figured that they might have some amount that's on the card. But if I had 6 and then 3, I would still be within that $10,000 limit. And I had a bunch of math behind it. But basically, that was what I believe to be the sweet spot on pricing, that for the right avatar, for a business owner who's a legit business owner, a $6,000 price point is an impulse purchase that will not break the bank. And I felt that way because for us, when we sell tickets to the workshops that we hold here at headquarters, people basically, we have 15, 20-minute sales calls. It's not a very long sale. It's like, do you want to come out? Yes. Do you want to help with some of our team who literally does what you need help with? Yes. Great. We've done it 100 times. Like, we can help you debottleneck your issue. It's like really straightforward, and we have a zillion 5-star reviews. That's the offer. And so I knew that the right avatar, which is our core avatar, at, small business owner between 500 and 50 million, it's not a big purchase. For a consumer, it would be, but I clearly was like, I got your free stuff already. You're taken care of. This is for the ballers. And the super ballers who can make a $24,000 purchase without a phone sale was going to select for the highest quality people who had already received a ton of value from me. And also my fear was that if I had no friction into a community, it would create a poor value community. The opposite has actually happened, which was really cool. So Scale Advisory, because there's no phone sale, it only was people who truly just opted in and were like, I'm in. And for all my Scale Advisory people, if y'all are here, let people know in the chat, if I'm full of it here. I think it's sick. I think the community is awesome. It's one of the most positive communities. Everyone is a homie. It's just great vibes. And everyone just gives their coolest tactics and what's working right now. And it's sick. And I think that can only anyways, it was magical. So that worked well. And so that's the fourth thing that I've never seen anyone do. A high ticket OTO, an $18,000 one-click upsell with an 11-minute video. Never seen that happen. We converted, I think, 5-ish% of buyers into that. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20-ish million on the back end, just from adding that extra button. Obviously, it's the button. There's obviously work involved. And my team is still involved in the delivery there, which is cool. So it was for the first time ever. Again, the truth is nice when it's true. So, and I was only doing it for the launch, which is again true. And so 6 months, we're still going. If you donate more books, you get more stuff, right? So then we go through. This is just FAQs, which are always going to come up. All the internationals, we got 50 plus countries, which was Herculean effort by the team. And so fundamentally, what do we got on time? Okay, good. So I will, okay. So, all right. I'm going to speed run because I don't want you guys to, Ginny Green, all good, but now you got to use it. There you go. Great. Okay, so give you the tools. So now we go into each of the playbooks, right? So I made the scarcity stack, we made the transition, and now it's I'm going to do an overview of the 4 things inside. Let's pull up the first one, big summary, and then we go bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3 of frameworks. Each of them is paired with a visual inside of the book. Then we say, great, think about how fast this is, right? I go, boom, intro to the second. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, third. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, fourth. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, next. Right? And then we have to go proof of the overarching thing of the whole system working. So proof around ads. Here's me spending a lot of money on ads. Here's the result. And then it goes, this doesn't just work for me. It works for everybody else too. So then I give examples on that. And this was the structure all the way through. We go big thing, bullet 1, 2, 3, big thing, bullet 1, 2, 3 with a visual in each. Big thing, bullet 1, 2, 3. Here's proof for me. Here's proof for other people. That was the structure all the way through. All right. And so, of course, we're stacking each of the systems all together as we go through each of these. Now, obviously, what makes this compelling is the truth. We have big companies. We have big outcomes. We have big results. We are a big business. We are good at business. And so me showing this, the most compelling thing in the world is proof. So, just prove it. I had a guy who came out for the affiliate one day, and he said, how do I become a top 10 marketer in the world? I was like, be a top 10 marketer in the world. He wanted to be basically a top 10 marketing influencer. I was like, just be a top 10 marketer and you will have the influence, right? Elon doesn't need to be a business influencer. He is a businessman, right? I just happen to be motivated by education, which is cool. Or hopefully you think it's cool. So we keep going through, more proof. And so each of these, same thing. we go big bullet, and then we go, here's, again, all of these are a fraction of what's inside. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3 with a visual. Next one, bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3 with a visual. And then proof that it works. And then these are our portfolio companies. Here's another one. Here's clients. And this is literally the system. That's all it is. It's literally the same framework all the way through. This is not creative. This is just all about collecting the proof you need. All right? This is all this is. Just proof, all the way through. Okay. So at the end of the system, we make the next CTA. So I've made CTA number 1 when I make it available. CTA number 2, now of course the CTA is along the bottom, but we need to have good reasons to like really nudge, right? So nudge 1, it's available. Go to go.acq.com. Now we have a scarcity stack. You should really go because it might run out. Go.acq.com. Now at this point, you have the full stack explained to you. Now you know what you're going to get, which is why you should go to go.acq.com, right? Which is why I push it here. And then now we just like at each of these points, you'll notice I do more questions or answers around payment logistics. So more like, hey, just a reminder, you can affirm. If you have issues checking out, go here. You can call these people. By the way, all this applies for the current sale. For those of you guys who are going to go to go.acq.com right now for the AI, you should go do it. You have 36 hours. We're going to continue to make this thing fucking exceptional because it is a huge investment for us, and this is like where we're taking the business. So if you trust that my products are good, it's a one-time payment of $3,000. Then after that, if it cannot cover the $300 a month, you need to learn how to use it, which is why I'm doing the AI workshop. Everybody who got the donated books, you get it for free as a reminder. Okay, so then we made it easy. And so then we have to transition, right? So you're about to begin your quest. So one of the things I like doing when I have these is big narrative arcs. So it's like, I'm assuming that they have it. Like you're about to begin your quest, right? But what happens when you hit a roadblock? So we like this big visual, right? To your specific situation, because what we're doing along this arc is explaining what their common objections are likely to be, right? So most people get stuck, they give up, but not you, because I couldn't help with everybody, but we had an idea that changed everything. So I told you earlier, now this was the rubber band snap, right? Now each of these obviously had big sales snaps, but this was the dump, right? And so I told you we had all these businesses, they paid $35,000 each. So $35 million in consulting. Great. But I did leave something out. So this is the reveal. I also met with 226 businesses that paid $135,000 each. The video that I played with Tyler, he did this. He did L3. And then he also used the AI. And he was like, this thing's insane. And I was like, yeah, I know. I spent 2 years training it. Like, that was the point. And so we went through that, right, for one-on-one for me to break down their business. And then big visual proof of the amount of work. There's the actual notes. Those are the actual notes. I actually have more than one binder, but it's better for the visual. And so if I spaced all these out, so again, notice that there's always, if I'm going to, I could have said, I did this for 2 years and left it there. But instead, it's like, hey, if I spaced out working with all those businesses with no weekends, 226, it'd be one business every other day, end to end for 2 years. And so again, whenever you're going to pronounce a number, you always want to drag it, right? If you want to make it compelling. If you want it to be small, just say it. If you want to emphasize it, then add visuals and contextual clues to show relative contrast to something else. Like, I could have just said 226, but I said, well, if I were to space out 226 over 2 years, that would be one business every other day, end to end with no weekends for 2 years. It's still 226, right? But how you say it, and then of course, I obviously have the visuals of every single one of the times that I had to prove that I did the work. It's like, show your work. I'm telling you guys, if you build products, if you build services, if you make investments, show your work. Like if you don't have results yet, that's okay. Show your work. Now today I could show you results from the AI, right? I couldn't before, but I can now. So show your work. Great. So truly backbreaking, like literally I'm saying this because this is how it works. Like this is how you do it. All right. And again, it's like, what's the reason why? I did this unscalable work because people always ask me, can you help me grow my business? And I would like to help, but I cannot help everyone statistically, right? I still have my main job, and Layla likes to see me sometimes. And so we documented 226 plus businesses, huge amount of work, can't scale for a particular reason, to build something that can, right? And so for every business we met, intake calls, stats, industry, again, extensive notes, constraint analysis, right? Personally deliver the recommendations, which we did. And I mean I, document the exact problems and the solutions, what actions and in what order, right? Organize follow-up to give them their next steps, right? And this is to all the people who, like, this is me obviously telling the people, like, don't worry, everything is whitewashed, which by the way it is. Obviously, we're not going to share your data. But I personally, and then I restate this, right? It's another stack. We did all of this work, right? In preparation for this moment. Like, and I could have just said, here it is. But instead, it's like violent, obscene, ruthless, wise, ACQAI, the fifth bonus, custom trained on everything. And no, not one of these bullshit, like I took some documents and I took Alex's YouTube and I uploaded it to a GPT. You have tons of guys who are in Scale Advisory and they're like, yeah, I used one of those until I used this and this thing's way better. It's like, yeah, it's obviously because I have a shitload of data in 2 years I've trained it on. Like, think about this conceptually. I record for like 6 hours a week right now. 6 hours is not what gets out. Productive time is probably a third. What would you say, Daniel? A third? Third of that time is productive? Yeah? So 1 out of 3 minutes actually gets, so it's like 2 hours of true content gets put out per week. Now, obviously, it's clipped and repurposed and all that stuff, but 2 hours a week. Well, and I work a lot. So what happens the other 80 hours a week? Well, all of that work is what it's trained on. And so, like, the internet actually has a very small percentage of what I do and what it's trained on. But people just don't think. And that's why it's so much better. Like, we're trying to win. Like, we want to build an AI advisory practice that's truly a new version of an old thing. We believe the most valuable thing that someone could have, besides me literally giving someone money, would be to give them the next best step for their business. And the only way you can know that is with a ton of context. And the only way you get a ton of context is doing a ton of work. And we do love doing work here. So once we introduce it, it's like, yes, end-to-end analysis of all the businesses, every constraint, every solution, every implementation step. And then I have to, so just so you guys know, I had to include all the stuff inside of the AI because obviously, but that's easy. That's super easy to train on, right? We put the RAG database together and it was very easy to pull it in there. The main stuff was all the consulting work, right? But we put the playbooks in there just so that it could help with any of the implementation of any of the playbooks. And so again, I talked about this with Amjad. Clear inputs, clear outputs, processing, and reinforcement training. So maybe that you saw that clip earlier, this chart, maybe you saw it at the launch, like it might make more sense to you, but this is how you train AI. And so then, why do I say this big thing? Because everybody thinks that it's not going to work for their particular industry. And so I just took all the different types of businesses that I'd consulted with, not all of them, because I only put 60 of them, right? First, that was 60, right? We did 4 times more than that when I named every single one of these types of businesses. Second, I had a business not just exactly like yours, not once, but probably multiple times, right? Because believe it or not, there's not, like, if you're in home services, I've helped every version of that industry I could possibly imagine. It's not like it's just one plumber, many plumbers. Not one pest control, many pest controls. Not one roofer, many roofers. Not one solar guy, many solar guys. Not one restoration guy, many restoration guys. Not one GC, many GCs, right? Like, it doesn't, like, if you're an internet marketer, like, forget about it. Like, obviously, like, if you're a marketing agency, what are we talking about, right? Like, if you do anything where you sell stuff, like, via a channel of content, ads, or outreach, or affiliates, like we have probably worked with a business that's like yours or multiple times. And so I show all this stuff, right? If I hadn't done all that work, at the worst case, because I have to show all sides, right? One is I did a lot of them. 2, it's not just like yours, but it's also bigger and smaller. And 3rd is in the weird scenario where you think that somehow you are truly a special snowflake. So what? Isn't it great to learn from other businesses that are outside of your industry? And so it's like each of these I have to paint the corners of all the scenarios that someone might bring up of why they shouldn't buy, right? And so the end result of all of that work is that you can get answers in minutes that would cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. to directly get from advisory work, or just years of trial and error. So it's like such the best next step, the most valuable thing you could have, right? And so obviously you would finally get the answer to that question. And so I like the analogy I told you earlier, like you start this quest. So the playbooks are the map, ACQI is the vehicle, right? So this then creates the third thing, which is like, I'm going to need a guide. And so this is something that I have yet to see, by the way, which is the next unique thing that I did. So in terms of the rubber band snaps. So we had the first moment where we reveal it and say, go buy it. The next is this, the scarcity stack. The third moment was after the full complete set is produced. And this is the fourth. This is the fourth major CTA where people actually can buy stuff, right? So now we begin the price anchor process. So there's a second price drop. I have yet to see a second price drop ever where it's like the price has already been stated, but I had to build it back up because I couldn't have gone price drop, build back up, it's all free, here's even more stuff, and then said, okay, $100,000, then price drop, it wouldn't work. So I had to go 6, build all the value, justify, proof. Now I could snap it back down again. So $135,000 is my anchor, right? The most valuable thing I can give you. And then I had proof because the people behind me had done it. So it's not just like Alex made some number up. Many people had done it. They had paid that. They had gone through it, right? Here's the proof that it was good. All these people said it was a great experience. And these are obviously they're experienced business owners. People don't drop $135,000 without being legit. So numbers on a page got hard and overwhelming. Why don't we just ask the source? Everybody there says 10 out of 10 is an awesome experience. I couldn't control that one. So like that, like even today when I said, hey, if you use the AI, let people know how it was. I don't know what people are going to say. I can't control. But I am confident that the product is good. And so I'm okay with people saying, like, use it, and same with, L3. Like if you've done a day with me, I feel very confident that you had a good experience. And so I'm willing to risk people saying, thumbs down. But everybody, thankfully said it was a great experience. So, but that stakes around the proof is what makes it more believable, right? Whatever people are saying in the chat, I haven't had time to read it because I'm trying to do this stuff. If it's great and people say it's great, then like, awesome. And if somebody's not doing well with it, they need to get trained better on it, And so why would I give such an unstoppable machine away? I'm not giving it away. So this is the catch, right? So this begins the stack all the way down. Big mission anchor, $135,000 price. And then all of this is price justification. And then boom, we start working our way down. So would this amazing thing be worth all of this money? Pull that number in your head if you knew it was going to happen. Literally the same anchor language. Wouldn't it be worth at least as much? Yes. So wouldn't it be a great deal at $2,500? Yes. Great, that's why it's a bargain at $1,000. And so this time what was unique was rather than doing the anchor off of price, I did the anchor off of number of books. And so I had a little bit of variability in how I did the price drop by relating it to books rather than money. So that was how I made it a little bit different from the other time. But we still go all the way through the stack, boop, 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 all the way down. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going. A really great deal. And then wait for it. And the real cost, boom, free with the original donation, right? And so now people had truly confronted the price. Like for those of you who read the Money Models book, the chapter on price anchors or anchor upsells, anchors only work when you have people confront them. If someone does not confront it, if they don't really confront the price and really consider it and think like, is it worth it? Does this make sense? Like, how would I pay for it? You have to get those juices flowing. If you just try to like skip past the anchor, you didn't anchor, you wasted time. And so you really have to own the anchor. You have to anchor it. That's what you have to do, right? That's why they call it that. And so once you anchor it, then the drop will be meaningful and you will increase conversions. Because fundamentally you're saying this is really painful and you relieve the pain by lowering the price. And if people were willing to, like already considering the purchase at $6,000, some people are now like, shoot, I'm gonna have to pay more for this. And then it's like, oh, it's also just the same price, right? And then boom, right? So yes, also included when you donate 200 bucks, You get all that stuff my way saying, thank you, guys are awesome. And so then we restack, notice, restack every time. And I said like, the lead system, which includes this, this, and this, free. Sales system, this, and this, free. Delivery, this, and this, free. You have to do it. So sometimes you're like, I can't believe he's doing it again. Guess what happens after every time I did it? More sales. Every time. We have the tickers. More sales every time. Are you guys like this is like the behind the scenes? This is how it works. When you help me put 200 books in the hands of entrepreneurs who need them, but I've got one more free gift. Okay, so then we have the workshop. Now this is like what? Why do I have this? The big issue that someone's going to have is implementation. So I want to make sure that people pick. This one is all around finding the right constraint. So actually, anybody who's at the implementation workshop, let me know if you dug it. I think the implementation workshop was fucking awesome. The Hormozi 6 was something that like came out of me making that. Yeah, thanks, Philip. Like it was, yeah, I appreciate that. Like I worked super hard on that. And so we made the implementation workshop. It's funny for you guys who now have gone through it, right? Like you can see I presented it, but now you're so happy that you went through it because you're like, man, that was really good. And so like you have to believe in the products that you sell. Like I believe that I've done a lot of advisory work consulting. Like I've seen the patterns that deconstrain businesses, and I would like to share that with people. And so I can feel confident saying like, I will lead you through this implementation, figure out the playbook and the play that you need to figure out to deconstrain your business, which is exactly what anybody who is there would say. Figure out exactly where it is, that's the issue, and then that's where you focus on, right? So this explains the workshop. And so again, we have our little analogy. So the one was the vehicle, the workshops are your guide, right? So we have our first is you, one is the map, the vehicle, the guide. So we have this kind of little analogy that we're building along the way. Okay. Then we create more proof around workshops generically, which we're very good at them. So lots of 5-star reviews, more proof. So we go through again, restack, add the virtual workshops in. Great. Now, here's another point where we're, this isn't what I would consider a hard snap because it was just a single bonus. So we probably got some sales here. I made one price justification by comparing Chipotle to Affirm, $8.33 a day. Okay, fine. And so I basically feign at this point that the presentation is close to over, right? So some of you guys might have a question or two. I said, now before I bring up our 5 mystery headliners, right, which mind you, I have not mentioned the mystery headliners until this point. We are an hour and 30 minutes into the presentation, right? Just to give you context, maybe an hour and 40 into the presentation at this point. Now, many people heard about the mystery headliners, but there was no point in bringing them up earlier because if people are there, they're there. And I have other reasons for people to stay that are more compelling and simpler. So just because I have the reason to use doesn't mean I need to use it. But now I've used up most of those reasons. And so now I need to open up another loop to keep people in for the next chunk. So we have 2 more big CTA moments before we bring in the headliners on. All right. So if we're counting CTA moments, so you guys are digging this. This would took me, a long time to put together. So we had our initial, go buy it. We had our scarcity stack, go buy it. We had our complete program, all the stuff put together, go buy it. We had our ACQ AI, big price anchor, price all the way down, drop, go buy it. Then we have our virtual workshop. I wouldn't consider that one a true CTA. It's here, but it's not like when the CTAs are there, little sales tingles are there. It's not there for that one. Now, it was an exceptional workshop, but from a sellability perspective, some of these other things have more sexiness, even if some others are more valuable. Like if you go through the ACQ AI workshop that we'll go through, if you literally learn the skills by the end of the workshop, like, my God, that alone is worth it. The fact that you're getting an AI for free, basically, on top of that, amazing, right? I said it so you get the AI and then you get the workshop free. Whichever way you prefer in your mind that makes you feel better is fine with me. But fundamentally, that's the sexiness factor. There's 2 more moments that are going to come up, and this is the next one. So I said, let me address some of the questions that I expect people to have. So I said I had 4 things that I said that were net new. This is number 5. So there have been plenty of people who have done objection handling sequences. It's very common. If you're going to do it sooner or later, might as well do it now. Let me tell you the tale of 2 guys, Rick and John, and Rick didn't take action. John did. John became really successful. Like you go through these obstacles. The thing is that I advertise to a very savvy audience. So my audience consumes my stuff, right? And so y'all know what's up. And so me trying to do something as obvious as just like, let me just objection handle, I felt like I could do better. And so what I did was I said, what if I could create another presentation, but actually have it be valuable, but have it with a central narrative arc, but have it explain the stories and the moments that changed my life, but have them mirror the moments that other people who are listening are going through. And so that's what we did, right? And so this is right before I got into it, is like, hey, let me be direct about something. Like, if you've gotten free value from my stuff, like my nuggets, my YouTube, my podcast, my scaling roadmaps, my audiobooks, my keynotes, my newsletter, this is a $29 workshop that came for free with the book, right? If this has been valuable, the newsletter, the free courses, free events like this, which is virtually free with the $29 book purchase, then please donate to books. And so if that's you, go grab the AI. Like, it will help you out. Like, it is a very good product. I'm very proud of it, and it will continue to only get better as we continue to train it and make it a core element of the business. But again, this cohort, 36 hours, and then I don't know when the next one's going to be. Okay, so which again you could do at go.acq.com. Now, if you haven't gotten value, obviously please don't, and I mean that genuinely today too. All right, so while you guys check out, I want to now notice the language there, by the way, guys. While you check out. So if you ever want to kind of extend something and also tell the audience what to do, then you assume the close. You're like, hey, while you guys check out, we're going to do this other stuff. So if you're thinking about it, go check out. And while you're doing that, let's cover that. So I said I want to share with you something cool. So this is the introduction to the next portion of the whole presentation. So this is I call it the objection arc. All right. And so over the last year, I've been studying risk and reward decision-making frameworks, which is true, of the wealthiest people in history, which has been fun. So people like Rockefeller, Getty, Bezos, Musk. And so over the last year, I read books from 3 out of the 4 of them, which was a lot of fun. So anyways, what amazed me was a common theme, right? Which says they had to make huge bets. And the reason that this objection arc came up was because I actually told this story at a workshop here in person, which by the way is one of the best test centers that I have. I told this story because it was just top of mind for me. And it framed my presentation. And then when the team said, hey, do you guys want to do more advisory services or whatever, a higher percentage of people ended up doing it. And the only change was that I had mentioned this set of stories. And so I thought about that. I was like, there's something about this series of stories that encourages people to take risks, right? Of course, all bets, all upside have risk, right? And so I should just be upfront about that. Everything is risk. And these guys won really big, and it's because they took really big risk. And not only did they take risk once or twice, they had to take it multiple times going all in their careers. And so then it's like, okay, I could talk about them, or I could talk about how those frameworks have served me in my life and how the big risks that I've taken have paid off. And that became the objection arc, okay? So I give an example with Elon, and then I read the intro to the book Offers, which again, like the reason this stuff works is because it's true. Like I believe this. It was the intro to the book for Offers because it is one of my favorite passages from Bezos about risk and reward. And so this then enters, then this is again a call out. Some of you guys are stuck trying to figure out your next move, scaling like crazy, or trying to stop the bleeding. So somebody's going to fit in all 3 of those buckets. I have to pull everyone back in and say, hey, I know you're in one of these 3 places. This applies to you. And so I've noticed this for myself in business as well. And so at every sticking point that I reach, there's usually some big bet that I have to make to the next level. So many of you guys have said you want to be AI enhanced, AI first as a business. Well, one of the first skills you need to have is learning how to use it and create a data layer within your business so you can actually implement it, right? And so that would be a bet. And so you go do that. So every sticking point I reach, there's some big bet I have to make to get to the next level. Great. So some of you guys have to make the bet. And I like to remind myself when I don't feel courageous, which is true. So then they're all high stakes decisions, which create, and decisions are the highest leverage actions we can take, which is a reminder to the audience. And then we go into it. So I have this beautiful visual framework that tells people where they are. And then we go through the decisions. And so each of these has a clear story format. So if you aren't familiar with the story format, the way it works is you've got a hero or a protagonist who wants something. Something bad happens or gets in his way or her way. A guide or insight occurs. The insight from that guide changes the behavior of the protagonist, and then the story resolves with either internal transformation, external transformation, or both. That is how a story works. And so each of these stories literally follow, like, I do not try to get fancy with this. So I'm quitting my job to be an entrepreneur. So I'm on my phone, close friend. So I want this thing, right? I'm struggling. I'm presenting all of the problems that someone might present, that someone who's a potential buyer might say. What if it doesn't work? I'm doing okay. Why change anything? What if I run out of money? I've already got a lot going on. Things are super busy right now. And like a good friend, he listened, the guide, and waited for me to list all my reasons, and he said something I'll never forget. So then he gives me the insight. Dude, the only thing that's guaranteed is you risk nothing, you get nothing. For those of you guys who are on the fence about the AI, if you risk nothing, you get nothing, right? And so it sounds like you've given all the reasons not to do it are the reasons that you should do it, right? I don't have time right now. Great reason to use AI, because probably it'll help you save time, right? I can't afford it. It's like, well, what if you had more leverage on the work that you're doing? Would that be able to help you afford it? Like, not a promise, of course, your results will vary, but I'm saying, like, again, we can still use the same meta framework here. So me, the character, don't know, and also by doing it this way, side note for everybody, by doing it this way, you look less arrogant. So if I come in and say, hey guys, you need to do this, like you need to make decisions, you get to take action, the reasons you're not doing it, the reasons you should do it, it sounds, you can do it, it's just, it has a possibility of sounding heavier handed. If you are in the same bucket or boat as the customer or prospect, you're taking them along with you on this journey. And so they see you as a mirror or a proxy that they are experiencing the overcomes and the subsequent positive results from taking the desired action. So what I'm doing here is modeling desired behavior in mini micro stories, hoping that one of the stories or one of the obstacles I present with is relatable to them, and they say, oh, that's like me, and that good thing happened to him, and maybe it'll happen for me. That's the idea. Now, of course, not a promise. Your results will vary. There's the rest of the disclaimer. I can't remember what it is, but the rest of the disclaimer applies here. Okay. And so, good thing happens. Best decision I ever made, which then brings you to decision number 2, right? Learning the gym business. So I find this gym expert. I drive across the country. I didn't know what to expect. He says, you need to pay all this money. I freeze. I want this thing. Big obstacle. Then what happens? I present my obstacle. He is the guru. He is literally the guru in the story, right? And he says, he gives me the framework. I apply the framework. And then guess what happens? Good thing happens. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Decision, next decision, right? And so I just literally work all the way through this. But the thing is it's one sequential story. And I think this is what I haven't seen anyone do that I thought was really clever, that no one really cared about, but I think it's pretty cool. So rather than just do like time, money, spouse, stall, whatever, like the standard closes that you would normally do and layer 2 or 3 on top of each of them, I thought it was way cooler to give the actual stories of my life, the decisions that I did make where I did have to go risk and did have to go all in and how they paid off. And I thought that would be a way cooler way to do this. And so at the end of this whole thing, I said there was, oh gosh, this one's going to take forever to get through. I'll click as I talk. So at the end of this narrative arc, this was probably a 30-ish minute segment. We then have the next rubber band snap, right? So we have the rubber band snap at the end of the AI. The ACQ implementation workshop is soft, not a huge snap. Of course, we're going to get sales, but like it wasn't a huge dump. Then we have the objection arc. The sales start picking up with each of these objections as they're hitting. Then, of course, we finish this up. And then we restack and reclose. We close out this loop. And right before we do that, we add in the last urgency bonus. So narrative arc, we're getting people to close throughout. Then we introduce urgency, So it's live only. So for you guys, it's 36 hours or 34 hours or how many hours are left to get in on the next round of AI. After that, it's just you guys and just us, and we're gonna make this thing great. Then from there, we go through the urgency stack, and so then we go through the exact same setup. But this is now, I mean, think about how this is today. Like the AI is trained on the 400 plus pages of email copy and all the VSLs and the timelines for the launch, the affiliate black book. Like it's trained on all of that, right? $106 million launch. All of that's in there. And so when I did the launch, it hadn't been proven yet, but it is now, which is cool. So anyways, we have the big urgency thing, and then you stack it, and then you drop it all the way down, right? And so the core part with the launch black book is that launching, which is what today is all about, is everything that I've done. I've launched everything in my life, right? Like I launched gyms, which is where I started. I launched Prestige Labs. I launched school. I launched the books. Launching is how I built what I have. And so this launch you're watching right now, right? I invested a lot of money in ads. So if you guys are good, you want to drop the screens for a second? My team. So we can get full facials. That sounds horrible. Get your mind out of the gutter, Savante. Come on. Come on, Amir. Are we good? No? Are these down? We're good? Okay. So I said that we would cover 3 things today. I said that number 1, I would cover how we advertised this launch, and I would show you all the numbers. Do you guys feel like I kept that promise? Take off the filter. Do you guys feel like I kept that promise? Yes? Okay, good. Number 2, I focused on how we built the AI. So, one of the sexiest products that I've ever, had the blessing, I guess, to be a part of. 2 years of work, and you guys saw it in the chat, all the people who have used it and really like it. I showed you the metrics. People who buy it keep using it, and we're making it better every day. And that's what I want to do. I want to build that thing to be exceptional, and it'll be a core part of the advisory practice. So I explained everything about how reinforcement learning works. We explained how I gave you the Amjad story. Explained the pieces that we had to figure out, which is the 4. How is the most valuable thing? How to create tremendous context around the entrepreneur, the business, and the conditions in which they're working. How do we translate that data into knowledge? And then how do we translate that knowledge into actionable insights that create outcomes in the real world? So I walked through all of those in terms of how we built everything. And then you got to see Tyler's real life example of like, I spent $135,000 and now I feel like I've gotten the same tactics from this thing and I know exactly what I need to do. Like, that's the point. And then the third part is how you pitch it, right? How you sell it. And so I gave the voiceover for this whole presentation. After this transitions to the final stack, it just goes into the headliners. And each of the headliners is a proof example that I explained earlier. And so fundamentally, there's a lot of details that go into making something like this happen. This is not something that's a 2-week, decision. You saw the page of incentives and collateral that I/the team had to put together to make this possible. 2 years of my life at minimum, and if you include from when I started writing the first book, 4+ years. And so as much as it was a, world record breaking, highest grossing webinar of all time and all that, it was so much work. And there's also so much at stake when you have a reputation. And so I have a reputation for having good products. And so the workshops have to be exceptional. The books have to be exceptional. The playbooks have to be exceptional. The AI has to be exceptional. And you create that viral loop, that snowball effect of like, if people buy the first and second book and it's good, they buy the third book. If they buy the third book, they read the lost chapters and they think the lost chapters is good. They buy those books, they read all the playbooks and they think the playbooks are good. With the context from the playbooks, they understand how to use the AI better, right? And then the AI helps them because they just continue to experience the benefit of the products. And the more we can help people do that, the more I feel like we accomplish what we set out to do. So anyways, I appreciate you all. This was my way of saying thank you for buying a $29 book. So hopefully you enjoyed the entire free workshop that came for pre-ordering the book as a VIP. For those of you who do want to grab the AI because you didn't grab it for whatever reason at the launch, we open the doors up for 36 more hours or whatever it is, till midnight tomorrow for you to grab it. I just knew that if I explained a bunch of how we worked on it, we'd just get a zillion increase. So if you want it, go grab it. If you don't, it's all good. We'll open it till tomorrow night, and then we'll close it back down again. Beyond that, like, I'm so grateful for you, like unbelievably grateful. I hope you guys like use all of this to make your customers' lives better, make your lives better. This has taken me a long time to learn, and it's taken me a lot of scars to learn it. And I hope that it helps you guys out because you guys are the shit. You guys are awesome. I would never have imagined making YouTube videos on a webcam in a closet, that I would have a full live stream studio set up. Yeah. Thank you, Excellence with John Smith. This is $29. Yes, this was this was free with a $29 pre-order. So I appreciate you guys for choosing to buy earlier and helping me liquidate the ad spend that I had to promote this book launch. And that does mean something to me. And I always want to make sure that any money you give me, I give you more back. And if we always operate that way, then you will always want to do business with me. And that is fundamentally a principle that I have. Like, you will, if you always operate with abundant exchange, which is that both parties are better off after the transaction, you will have no shortage of people who want to do business with you. So you don't always get it perfect. I told you about the $9 thing. I probably could have clearly said we have we have a 99 and now we have a 99 rather than the 99 is now 9. It was just a goof. But yeah, we try the best we can, and we'll screw up, and then we'll keep going. You know, appreciate you guys. Rock and roll, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. And everybody else, stay awesome. I don't know. Do I do one of these? Happy $100 million launch workshop. Hope this was a great free ticket for the $29. All right. Go do hump day. Do it right. All right. See you later. Love you guys. Bye.